Welcome everybody to our latest session of the Restoration of Cariele. As usual, we'll do a quick recap of what occurred last week and then we will get started. So team, you will likely recall we picked up last week. You guys were out in the domain of Cariele. You guys were traveling. You had encountered this encampment of what looked to be some small number of perhaps soldiers or scouts or mercenaries. Hard to say exactly what they were. And you were trying to get some more information about them. So you guys eventually hatched this plan wherein Dean summoned some giant eagles to fly overhead of their camp, while Vin made his way into the camp under invisibility, trying to see what he could learn, perhaps find some documents or papers or something along those lines that would shed more light onto the nature of this group, why it's there, what it's doing, those sorts of things. So this was all during the same time you guys were kind of hiding in the forest as some runners left from that encampment. Seemed like two young men, and you guys let them pass by, then hatched this plan of yours. It seemed like it went okay until Vin got a bit close. He noticed that there were some cats circling around the tents, made his way back to the group, kind of informed them, went back, eventually discovered that when he got kind of close, the cats, or at least one of the cats, seemed to smell him perhaps as it looked in his direction and rushed towards where he was. He quickly scurried away from there. The cat stopped there and was smelling the air in that area. The cats also looked as though they weren't acting exactly naturally, almost like they were on a patrol, looking up in the air, that sort of thing. Eventually, as Vin was away from that location, he spotted a fiery-haired woman stepping out of the tent and kind of looking around, and then shouting that there was an intruder in the camp. And then another individual came out of the tent that looked somewhat like a spellcaster and looked like he started casting a spell. Vin made his way back to the group, and after the group was filled in, group decided that that was enough risk that they wanted to take and that they would head back to the castle. So the group then made their way back to the castle. Once you guys got back to Carolinian, there was a few different administrative things that you guys were taking care of, some odds and ends. There was information that you guys had learned about the growing carrion crawler threat, as a couple of you guys went and visited the rat folk down below. There was also some administrative matters that popped up, such as the petitioners that you guys reviewed. You guys reviewed a few of them, took some notes on them. Some of the ones that stuck out was one individual's there because his daughter was killed recently. This kind of links, you believe, to the note about the serial killer in Carolinian. There was also a woman coming to see you whose name, Milena, matched who you believe to be the red-haired woman leading that encampment. She seemed to be wanting to come to be a petitioner. You guys didn't necessarily let Lord Tannen know what you had learned on your endeavors outside of the castle, but did say that you would meet, and that would be a sort of a high priority or a cautious type stance from you guys meeting. There was a few other petitioners that you guys took some notes on as well. There was a missive sent to Moriad, which is still in transit. There was some other odds and ends communications, but near the very end of our session last time, you guys learned that the Kingdom of Thurazor has declared war upon you. And that is where we wrapped up. So, folks, that is my really quick and brief recap of what occurred last week. Plenty of details there for you guys to add on if you like. So, anything I missed that anybody would like to mention, feel free.
I've got one that I think we probably should look into, but we talked about with Minerva removing the curse from her and what it would cost and finding a spell scroll, etc. And Tavard said something interesting there. And then a couple of nights later, Vin woke up to Tavard sleepwalking at the end of his bed. So just something to think about, guys, that Tavard's being weird, especially
Uh,
with that fish smell the other night and everything.
yes, go ahead and take inspiration. Vin, I was going to say there was two weird Tavard related scenarios. Right, there was one where there was the odor of fish that Serena seemed to catch. She kind of woke her out of a sleep. She tried to track it down, found herself nearby Tavard's room. There was a local guard there as well, and once Tavard was awoken, the smell seemed to go away almost instantly. Tavard had no idea what anybody was talking about because he didn't smell it at all while he was awake, though he did carefully searched his bed for any signs of fish or anything like that. Didn't find anything. And yes, some days later, then Vin also had Taver standing at the end of his bed, sort of bobbing back and forth in a very strange kind of situation. Yep, good addition. Anybody else?
Adam, in Tabert's defense here, I'm just going to say there was no pictures, and so I doubt either of those. Deny, deny, deny.
Pixar, it didn't happen. Okay, I got it. All right, if there's nothing else, then let's go ahead and get back into it, folks. So
I got one more if no one else wants to add one. We had a reduce in loyalty with one of our provinces because of a nasty chain of severe thunderstorms. I believe it was Riverford dropped down a loyalty grade, and they're also about to get rated in war, so it's something to pay attention to.
Yes, indeed, right. You had several instances of very terrible or severe weather, and after all of these incidences collected together, it did indeed cause the loyalty in Riverford to drop. So, do you have another inspiration slot open, Vin?
I do, yes.
All right, go ahead and take your second inspiration then.
I don't know if it's inspiration worthy, but Blixel is getting shook down by someone trying to say he promised to marry her and have her baby.
I would say it is. Yes, take inspiration, Blixel. Right. So this was amongst the personal endeavors or issues that Lord Tannen decided to raise with you all. He asked if you guys were comfortable speaking or him speaking on some personal matters. Everybody except Dian said, yeah, that was fine. So then he did reveal some details, particularly this woman who seems to think that Blixel may be the father of her unborn child and is trying to arrange more of a formal meeting. There was also a group of archaeologists that seemed to suggest that they had Serena's support, and she pretty quickly quashed that down. And then there was also the individual who threw an egg, I believe it was, at Vin, who he had him arrested, but then he seemed to lose that prisoner, or at least the prisoner is no longer accounted for. So yeah, some additional personal details there. All right, if there is nothing else, folks, let's go ahead and get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us to a different version of the map than what we usually see, and then I'm going to do a little bit of explaining here because this will be our first situation as it comes to war.
Can you give me my red card? Cards, please.
Yes, I can. Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
I'm just feeling ultimately lucky today.
All right, so everybody should now have a card. Okay, so what I want to point out here, guys, a few things, is if you take a look at this map, I've got all of your units displayed here, and I've got the units in the adjacent provinces to where your scouts are currently also displayed, because as a reminder, when you have a unit of scouts in a province, it allows you to see one province over, one adjacent province, and see their soldiers. You'll notice, I'm hoping this works for you guys, if you put your cursor over any of these tokens, you should get a little tooltip that pops up that lets you know what it is. Is that working for everybody?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So that's letting you know the name of the unit, and then if there should happen to be a situation where, let's say they had 4 units of infantry in the same spot, of course you would see a 4 there, right? So that lets you know that there's multiple units. Right now, everything you see on the screen is only 1 unit, but that's something to keep in mind. I don't want you to think that just because you see 1 token, that automatically means just one of those. It could be 2, it could be 10, right? So make sure you use your cursor to look at those to get an accurate count. Also, because terrain is kind of important here, it might not be super important right at this moment, but this will become more important, as the campaign moves on. I wanted to also drop little exclamation marks in each one of your provinces so you know what the terrain in that province is. Primarily, at least as far as war is concerned, it really it affects how quickly troops can move through the province. So again, this is going to be all very much fresh and new to all of you guys. So I strongly encourage you to ask a lot of questions. There's probably going to be some mistakes made here. Don't worry, because that's, every time we go through new rules, that's the kind of stuff that is going to happen. But hopefully it will be fun nonetheless. So because war has been declared upon you, we sort of break into a different timing schedule now. So when war is declared, we go into what is known as war moves. War moves last 1 week. So basically, each week you're going to have an opportunity to move your troops, assuming you have troops left, right? And the enemy will have the opportunity to move troops. So once troops are moved, I'm going to try to explain this in brief as I can. And then, like I said, feel free to ask questions. Once troops are moved, if they enter your province, you will have the opportunity to decide to stand and fight, or you can withdraw. If you withdraw, you can move one province away. So let's say theoretically, I'm going to use an example that's not going to happen, but just it'll help. Let's say troops were to come from Trujilloville into Mountain's Edge, and your 1 unit of infantry here, you were to say, nope, we can't fight those 6 units of Elvish archers, you're going to retreat. You can move back towards Riverford, or you can move back to Melivian. Once a unit moves, for example, retreating, they cannot move again in the same war move. Again, each war move is like a week, so think of you basically getting 1 move per unit per week. And there is also a small cost that goes into moving your troops, but that's pretty minor, so don't worry too much about that. So I'm going to pause there. Does that make sense that if you were attacked like this, you could flee back to one of the adjacent provinces?
Makes sense.
Yep.
Yes.
Why would we ever want to be cowards?
Right. Well, so here's a good example.
I know.
But that's a good question, though, because here's a good example. If, let's say, an army was to come this way, and let's say they had 4 units,
Yeah,
and then
we would be unprepared.
you would be unprepared. Now, depending, right, you guys, the way this works is that if, let's say, a unit moves in, you decide right then and there whether you want to retreat. You can't say, oh, can I move these guys in first? Nope, you decide right away. Are you fighting or are you retreating, right? And then you also then would get to move your troops. Now, the reason it's important that they can only move once is that if you were to retreat here, you can't, on the same war move, then move that unit back in, right? You'd have to wait a week or a war move to do so.
I have a question about the order of this. You said like, for example, the goblins would move first and we move second. Does that ever change?
So whoever declares war, they move first, right? So
Okay, great.
Thurazur has declared war on you, so they will move first. So again, using real examples now, as you guys can see the units here, if let's say 1 unit was to move here and 1 unit was to move here, or all 3 were to move here, or all 3 are to move here, right? However that were to work, you at that time get to decide, do you stand and fight or do you retreat? And then decide future steps, what it is that you're going to do. What I will also just say at a high level is once we get into an actual battle, assuming we do a war, you guys would control your troops in war. Now, the basic assumption is that you can have somebody in charge of the troops, like a general, for example. Typically that'd be Cerilia, but unfortunately her player's not here today. So in that situation, you basically you have 2 different choices. I won't get into it too much right now in case it doesn't. I'm sure it will happen, but I'll get into more detail when we're on the other screen so it makes more sense. But just at a high level, I guess what I want to get across is if you decide to participate in the battle, the war, there's basically 2 ways you can participate. One is in the back, in the very far back, which basically just means you're a strategizer. You're way away from the actual fighting, but you're talking, and there's a primitive form of communication with armies that has to do with like raising flags of different colors and numbers and things that basically says, hey, you infantry, move forward. Hey, you archers, back up, that sort of thing. So you have that kind of to your disposal, but it's not where you're going to be able to easily communicate and communicate fully. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll pause there to ask for any questions.
I have one, boss man.
Sure.
We have war moves, which kind of show us a little bit about the defender and aggressor and how that works, and then we have terrain movement cost. But what I'm not seeing is the movement for infantry or scout, like how many points they have. Is that a
Yes,
different like card or something?
it is. Yep. So if you go under, let's see where I've got that stored. Okay, so if you're looking at the terrain movement costs, you'll notice at the top it says see base move and unit types. If you go to the unit types handout, it lists all the different types of units, and then base move is the first column. Good question.
Okay, I see now. Thank you. So infantry has one movement point, so to speak.
Correct. Now, one of the things with movement that is really hard for people to wrap their heads around in this. So if you make a mistake, don't worry. It's possible I may even make a mistake once because it's somewhat counterintuitive, but I tried to put some good examples in the handout there. But the way terrain movement works is if you have one point of movement, you can always move one province, assuming that the province is enterable at all. Okay, so even if, for example, Mountain's Edge is a forest terrain, forest province, which means it actually has a movement cost of 2. But if somebody, any army unit was here, they can move here even if they only have a unit movement of 1. So really what happens, the reason that's 2 is that it prevents moving through, right? So if there was army units that wanted to go like this and then like this, they'd have to spend 2 to get in here, and they would have to have at least 3 to move on. If they had only 1, they can still move the 1 though.
Okay, and then follow-up question. Sorry, I had to cough. You mentioned, like, let's say they move in and they move in. What about on our turn if we want these guys to fight, but these guys to move? Is it possible to split our army's actions that way? Like, can we have some move and some fight?
Yes.
And, like, this would be reinforcements and stuff? Is that, like, doable?
It is, but keep in mind a war move represents a week. So if you have like these 2 units standing and fighting, and then this one, your hope is that they're going to come and reinforce. Whatever moves in here, the battle between the army units would be taken care of first, and then we would move out of that stage of the war. And if, let's say, both of these units were destroyed, or maybe one of them survived but was routed and the other one was destroyed, on the next turn, basically this guy's moving in, but now he's by himself. Right? So you don't ever think of it as like if these guys get attacked and they choose to fight, no one's going to be able to get there in time to join that battle.
Understood.
Okay, any other high-level questions at the moment? Okay, so and then the last thing I want to throw out there, because this is just kind of a strange... the rules of this game are the way they are to try to make it make sense. And sometimes you will say, well, couldn't we just do this? But sometimes I'm just going to say no, because the rules say you can't do that, even if it won't not necessarily make sense. So one of the ones I hear pretty frequently is these guys declared war on you, right? So they're getting ready to move in. So then you might say, well, can we move our troops into their province? And the answer is no. And that's because they've declared war on you, but you haven't declared war on them. If you wanted to move into their province, you'd have to use your next action to declare war on them, at which point you then could move your troops into their land. And what I will hear a lot of times from players is, well, couldn't we secretly declare war? No, even though maybe that would make sense, or just trying to send a unit across the border, it might make sense. As far as the game rules are concerned, you cannot do that unless you declare war first. All right, so with all that out of the way, like I said, there's probably going to be a lot of questions, so don't worry too much, but I just wanted to give you that high-level oversight as you're given this information. I'm going to take us back into the council room. All right, so as this very terrible information of war having been declared upon you has been delivered, you guys have only had a short period of time discussing amongst yourselves exactly what it is that you're going to do, how you're going to respond to this. In fact, you're probably still in that very early stages of figuring exactly what it is that you're going to do when Lord Tannen is called to the door, and you see him sit up from his chair, kind of goes to there. You get the impression that he's speaking to somebody outside the door, and then you see he closes the door once again, but when he turns, he has this rolled up scroll in his hand, and he says, My lord, counselors, I think you're going to want to read this.
All right, who's it from?
It is from the King of Thurazor. Here. And he will set this down where each of you can read it. And just so it's not silence while you guys are reading, maybe I'll read this out loud. Attention, region or regents of Cariele. His most eminent highness addresses you so generically as you have not made yourself known to the great goblin kingdom of Thurazor. His most eminent highness knows that you have worked with the human kingdom Moriad and shown them the respect they are due as a great domain, yet you show no respect to the kingdom to your west, an equally great domain. His most eminent highness wonders if this is because you don't consider goblins worthy of your respect. Nonetheless, His Most Eminent Highness will show you the respect that you failed to show him by providing you with the following information. His Most Eminent Highness has learned that a general in command of a tiny number of His Most Eminent Highness's forces has decided that your lack of respect towards the great goblin kingdom of Thurazor demands blood. While His Most Eminent Highness understands the general's feelings, he cannot condone this action and thus will not support this general or those that serve under him any longer. His Most Eminent Highness grants you the permission to deal with the traitorous general's forces in whatever way you deem appropriate. His Most Eminent Highness assures you that no further forces from the great goblin kingdom of Thurazor will participate in this silly little skirmish, but reminds you that all of this could have been avoided had you simply shown the proper respect. His Most Eminent Highness warns you that should you think to strike at the great goblin kingdom of Thurazor in retaliation for the actions of this traitorous general's actions, that the entire goblin legion of Thurazor will descend upon your lands, slaughtering your soldiers and taking your people as slaves. His Most Eminent Highness, Kaiskar Glacier, scribed by Crawl Two Toes.
I'm just gonna say I think that's hilarious.
So he can't condone it, but he's willing to declare war to let his troops go in. I see how it is.
Who delivered this message, Tannen?
It was a courier, a human courier, in fact.
Sounds petty. I've been count for only a month and some change. What's he expect?
Is their ambassador going to live in the west wing or the east wing of the castle?
There will be no ambassador from Thurazor. I will send him back a baker's dozen of his fine soldiers' heads, with a note attached to it, saying if he enters our lands anymore, we'll kill them all. A petty little bitch.
Well, sounds like that wasn't his intentions. It sounds like his general's doing it on his own accord.
So, our first taste of warfare, and we're going to believe this random note.
I mean, I take it as good news. I wouldn't want to go against all the goblins. I think we can beat the ones that are on the border.
And maybe we can collect some iron for our little friends down in the sewers.
Let's worry about the immediate problem of securing our borders and protecting our people before we start thinking about an official response or retaliation, yeah?
I agree on that. However, is this normal for goblins, Tannen, to allow their generals to act like a warband?
I'm
Take these
afraid,
actions on their own?
my lord, that I don't have the best of information on the goblins. I could certainly see trying to gather information on that area if that is your desire, but that is not my expertise, I'm afraid.
Well, it's a just question, my liege, because if they have a reputation of taunting or setting up a trap to make us declare war on them, and it's just a bag of mercenaries, or wants to entice us into a greater battle, it'd be a good history lesson to see if this has been done in the past.
Well, on top of that, let's think about it like this. What would it look like as a leader if I allowed Serena to just say, well, I fucking hate elves, and take, a portion of our army to raid the elves? Doesn't seem like a commending boundary. And then twice in this note, they mentioned adjectives that are supposed to intimidate us. Tiny, the whole of the goblin forces. I mean, our scouts are on the border and we only see 3 groups. If they are
There's
so
always the
high and
Blood
mighty,
Kingdom, though.
yes, but we know what it costs, right? For troops, mustering troops and maintaining them. What are they? 6 provinces, twice the mileage of ours. They will be having to make a huge income to be able to handle an army that large. This looks like an intimidation tactic to me.
Well, they might. Well, we don't know too much about their economy, right? I thought the Thurazor goblins were the more civilized kind, so they may have quite extensive dealings. We don't know.
What a great first act of civilization, to raid your new neighbors. Either way, though, we should not declare war back. We should defend our borders for now. And we shall see how he responds to us squashing his puny little troops.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would say let's fortify. I mean, we might have to leave part of the other border open, unless I don't know. We're afraid of the witch.
I don't think we need to be afraid of the witch.
And we have to remember that we have the elves to our back, who we have no bad blood with them. They're currently hosting a council with Doson, the Baroness, talking about protecting themselves against the Gorgon. Could they really afford to wage war against us at the same time, with the Gorgon's forces on their border? I think you're right, Lord Blixel. I think if we move those infantry troops to fortify the scouts and the archers in Melavine, that will probably be a good bet, considering that's where the concentration of their forces are.
Yeah,
However, those riders
we
will
got to give them
already
a good chance.
We should draw them in, surround them, and crush them. Lord Tannen,
Yes, my lord.
I am new to this, but I would really love to kill some goblins. Is it normal for the Regent to step out onto the battlefield?
Well, if you mean did your uncle ever do so, no, he did not. He was not interested in being on the battlefield. What I would say, however, is that if this battle comes to Riverford, we are protected by our castle, and it would be very difficult for the goblins to harm us much, being that unless they were to send a significantly large army, that we will have to wait and see. Should they attack another province, for example, if they should attack Melivienne, if you were to leave the castle to go fight in the war, who's to say that they don't have any scouts of their own waiting to see if reinforcements come from the castle?
Alright, and that's a good point. However, wouldn't our scouts point out their scouts?
Well, if you mean the army unit scouts, yes, of course, but a few stray goblins here or there that break away from the larger force, you might find a small, dozen goblins or so who have scouted around this area. Maybe they're waiting for this. But if you feel it is imperative for you to be on the battlefield, I'm sure we can make those arrangements. I suggest that should be a decision that your council makes.
And what about my father? Did he fight in the battles?
Yes, he was more known to take an active lead in battles. Mostly they were skirmishes in his time, is my understanding. But yes, he would lead from the front. In fact, there's been a few times that he took some arrows and continued fighting, even though he had arrows in a shoulder or a knee.
And you've taken darts before, that's almost the same thing.
Aye, and I had my throat cut open by that one guy. Well, if it's alright with my council, I'd like to lead this first fight. Show the peasants and the local Carolinians that their leader is here to protect them, not hide behind his walls like my petty uncle.
And I've known you for about 15 years, and I know that there is nothing I could possibly say to dissuade you from this.
Well, I look over at you. With your newfound ability to blow things up, I think it's important you come as well.
I do love being volunteered and conscripted into fighting, but I would prefer to end this
Enjoyed
quickly
that.
and with minimal bloodshed.
There's not much bloodshed setting things on fire. There's a lot of screaming, though. What about the
Yeah,
rest of you?
it's
Dean?
post-traumatic stress I'll have to deal with later.
But I have a pressing question, my liege. And Lord Tan. Uh, uh, could you answer plainly? Have we ever been at war with the goblins?
There have been minor skirmishes along the border on occasion, but not a out-and-out war that I'm aware of.
Hmm. Now, to your question, my liege. I do feel initially that it's best that the regent of Cariele not be slain, particularly if this is maybe a provocation or a trap or a way of distraction that maybe shouldn't be caught in the front lines.
He'll be fine. He's got the egg.
Aye. What a story it would be if I was killed in battle and came back again for the next one.
Uh,
I would say just make sure the people around know that you can possibly come back if you die.
that would be a great song to sing for our copper bard.
My vote, though, is to hire this cavalry, unless they're trying to screw us, obviously, and have them take care of the goblins
It's
with
not a
vicious
bad idea.
efficiency.
However, and Lord Tannen, I do not think you're privy to this information yet, but. And Parnio's not in the room, right, Adam?
He is not.
However, we encountered suspicious behavior, to say the least, from a unidentified group of marauders in Riverford the other day, about 30 to 40. Sounds, based on your description of the woman who seeks our counsel, she seems to be the leader we saw. Maybe. It's all speculation. But if that's the case, then they are working with the guild directly. This could be a whole nother ploy altogether.
I don't think the guild would want Cariele to be destroyed by goblins, but there is something afoot here that we should probably get to the bottom of before we decide to hire these people or not.
Well, her cost is average. Mercenary cavalry usually cost about 6 gold bars to muster, so she's not overbidding us in any way.
I would be afraid of losing control. What if she overreached and caused a deeper provocation?
Well, it's cheaper to raise our own cavalry under our own banner.
That would be a stronger representation of your might, sir.
It
Lord-
takes time, though.
You see Lord Tannen nodding. Your own troops will, of course, be more loyal to you, and you don't have to worry about what they will do should you choose not to pay them. But as Lord Blixel has, or Councillor Blixel has so aptly put, this will take time to muster a unit of cavalry, so you'll have to decide what is more important, having the cavalry now or waiting for a bit of time to have your own cavalry.
Aye, all good points. Well, in terms of what the goblins may do, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what their actions are. But considering they've got those wolf riders up to the, what is that, Murgarat? They can move pretty quick, I'm assuming. We don't want our archers and our scouts to get overrun in Melavine.
Hey, Adam, when you've got a number 1 next to him, like a scouting unit or whatever, approximately how many does a number 1 represent?
A unit is comprised of approximately 200 members. So if you see one, regardless of the type, scout, infantry, archer, think about 200 fighting people.
Thanks.
Well, my lord,
Well-
counselors, these decisions will have to be made quickly. I don't imagine the goblins are going to take too long before they move in based on their declaration of war. We don't know exactly where it is that they're going to go yet. Time it will take to muster cavalry, of course, has already been discussed. Is there any immediate action that we should take, whether it's hearing this petitioner to try to get her cavalry up and running, or should we be looking to hire other mercenaries? We would be able to get them much more quickly to fight, but of course there is the issue of their loyalty.
Adam, where can I find a map that has like the war stuff on it again?
I don't
Is it
know if
under
I
maps?
gave that to a handout to you guys, and unfortunately I wouldn't be able to do that as a handout because handouts are static. I can't update them like that regularly, but I can just move you over there for right now.
So then, for clarification, so we have 1, 2, 3, 5 troops, right? We're green. The guys on the bottom, they're not goblins. We're only concerned about the 3 red circles.
Yeah, the guys below us, we can see them because of the scouts we have.
Yeah, I know, but I just
there's
want
a-
to know who they are. So who are the ones in the south, Adam?
They are from Moria.
Moria.
Moriad, okay.
And then you got
And what's
gnolls
the
and
big
Fortuna.
line?
The
Yeah,
brown
the
line
road.
represents a road.
Okay.
All right, so we have these. There is that in Melavian? These 2 troops.
Yes. You have a unit of archers and a unit of scouts in Melavian.
And up north in Riverford, we have 2.
Yes, you have a unit of archers and a
Okay.
unit of infantry.
Then we have that 1 infantry unit in Mountain's Edge.
I mean, my advice out of character is to move the infantry forward and move the scouts back, because scouts aren't really good at fighting, right?
Well, I think you need the scouts to better see in case others come by as well, so I think moving the scouts out. Sorry, I got some dog issues going
So,
on
but-
behind me.
But the scouts can see 2 provinces, Adam.
One
Just
province
one
away.
connected to it.
1 province, okay, Adam. And then, so the scouts need to be there in case reinforcements come. I see the argument for that.
Yeah. Because right now they're saying that only the troops that we see are the ones that are going to come. That's what he said in that letter. So we need to see if he's lying or not. But I agree. I think moving the infantry over to Melovain is a good move. But of course, we're trying to predict what they're going to do.
So since
first turn though, right?
So since there was a question of like how strong are scouts, that's a fair question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move you to the war board temporarily just so you can see that level of detail.
Oh, nice.
All right, so on the war board, you're going to want to zoom out because this is designed to be pretty big. I'll explain how the war board works here momentarily, but you'll notice that your troops are on the reserve. This doesn't represent all of your troops, just the 3 unique versions that you have in your domain right now. So as you can see with archers, they have a movement of 2, defense of 2, melee of 2, missile 4. You also notice a little note there that says +1 missile attacks versus mounted units. So archers are really good at taking down mounted enemies. And Weirian scouts, if you look at theirs, you'll notice they can move quite a bit. Same defense as the archers, same melee as the archers, not as good of missile as the archers, however, but they do have a missile weapon. Of course, missile, if you're not familiar with that term, that's a range like a bow and an arrow, crossbow, that kind of thing. And then your Weirian infantry, 3 defense, 3 melee, +1 attacks versus pikes or irregulars.
What about, like, I don't know, hit points or something? Are there tougher infantries?
Yep, great question. So you'll notice on the infantry card, if you look at the bottom, it's upside down text, but it says 1 hit. So what that means is that if you score a hit against the infantry, they then would fall to a melee of 2, but they essentially have, you might think of it as 2 hit points, right? So they can suffer that 1 hit and they're not destroyed, but their attack is reduced. Whereas the scouts, you'll notice, don't have that, which means they only have 1 hit point. So if they suffer a hit, they are destroyed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
yeah.
infantry is strong.
I would say infantry is more defensive, right? Like they can survive more attacks, right? Now, again, I'm saying that in very generic terms because what happens when 2 units strike each other once they engage in combat, there is cards that determine what happens. And one of the outcomes could be this unit suffers a hit. And if it says that, again, for your infantry, we would move the card sideways. So we would do something like, to zoom in to see this, but we would do something like this. And that would indicate now that the infantry has suffered a hit. And now they are fighting at a melee 2, but their other stats remain the same. However, they're not destroyed just from suffering a hit. However, if let's say that the card you drew based on the attacking unit was so overwhelming, the result might not say hit. It might just say unit destroyed, in which case, regardless of how many hits that unit has, they're just dead.
And this is a great question. Based on that fireball we were just talking about from, this is a great question about health points because if you were to fireball a chunk of infantry, you're gonna get a swath of people. You know what I mean? I mean, it's
Yes.
What is it, 30 feet or what is the radius on fireball?
20-foot radius.
Okay, so I mean a 20-foot
so
radius.
I think what you're fishing for is what's going to happen if we cast Fireball against an enemy unit. And what I will say is Fireball is a spell that you can use in war. It affects enough people that it would have an effect. However, in order to do that, you must be leading that unit of troops. So remember how in the beginning of the session we discussed you can either be in the back, like you are, back there discussing with each other, raising the flags to instruct your units where to go, what to do, that kind of thing. If you wish to be on the battlefield so that you can cast a spell, you can essentially take control of a unit. Obviously, the regent has to say, yeah, that's okay. And then the person who would be the spellcaster has to say, yeah, that's okay. And then they move with the unit and then they can cast a spell. So like a fireball, if you were to, let's say Saline was to agree to that, she takes control of the infantry. Let's say your infantry move out to here. This is how the battlefield works. Each one of these spaces is very, very large. And technically, any number of these unit cards can be in a single space. It's easier if you don't put them all in a single space because they're still easily readable and all that kind of thing. But if for some reason tactically you think, oh, let's put all 3 right here, that is allowed, just so you're aware. But let's say that, Saline has control of this unit, and just for demonstration purposes, let's say this was the enemy unit, and the enemy unit starts moving in, and Saline decides to cast Fireball on that unit. Essentially what happens is I have a list on my side of what the spells do. It's going to involve a spell effect roll, and then it could be a hit, it could be destroying that unit outright, or it could be it doesn't do enough damage to cause a hit.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Sure
and
thing.
then does the morale part matter at all?
It does, yeah. So basically, anytime a unit is struck, they have a chance of failing morale, meaning that they flee. So you'll notice under the morale section, there are these symbols. Like for the scouts, we've got cross swords and then a flag. So when a morale check occurs, really all we do is we draw a random battle card and we look at the flag on that. So let's say this infantry wasn't out yet, right? And let's say the scouts here suffered a morale check. And we flipped from the deck and we got this card. Since this card has a flag on it, as you'll see there, the purple flag in the center of the card, and because the scouts have morale of crosswords and flag, that means they pass their check. But if, let's say, I'm going to reveal this other card, but let's say we drew this other card from the deck as part of the morale check, notice how this one is a shield, and the scouts have crosswords flag but not shield. That would mean they fail their morale check. If you fail a morale check, you basically have to flee to get back to your end. So you guys, this down here is considered the friendly reserve is what they call it. And this is the enemy reserve at the top. If you get back to your reserve area, and then once you're there for a short bit of time, basically you can re-enter the battle if you pass a morale check. If you can't make it back because you're blocked in every which way, your unit is destroyed.
All right.
So again, I just want to reaffirm that this is a lot of new information. So feel free to ask questions. I'm really hoping this isn't like due to crazy luck, you guys get like destroyed right away. Or whatnot. But anytime there's randomness involved in a game, random things can happen. But what I want to try to avoid is, I wouldn't have done that had I known this. So I'm going to try to watch for any things you guys do and just make sure you're aware what could potentially be the outcomes.
So we do have battlements then in position anyway if they move in. We have scouts or whatever at the map. So we're already in a position to defend an intrusion, right? Like they're right there.
Your troops are ready to go. Yeah, your troops are ready to go. So remember, you guys hired scouts during Domain Action 1. It's technically Domain Action 2 now when Thurzor has declared war on you, which means the scouts are now active. They're fully created. Now, when you say battlements, if you just mean the units, yes, they are ready to go. Now, remember, you actually have a castle in Riverford. If they attack a province that has a castle, that gives you some defensive bonuses.
I got a question for you. So, if there is a group okay, I'll be back. Stop.
Units of werewolves are really strong on the battlefield.
This is going to be a while. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, so we have archers and scouts. So the archers and scouts could defend down in Meleville, and then archers and infantry in Riverford. Okay.
Yes, so we are at the beginning of War Move 1. I already know what the enemy's going to do, but basically what I'm giving you guys the chance to do here is if there's anything you're trying to do immediately, for example, if you were to say, we really want to reinforce our lines and we want troops now, you can hire mercenaries and they are hired instantly. They have a cost, and then like I said, if you don't continue to pay them, they are known to become bandits, essentially. So if, let's say, you hire a unit of mercenary cavalry, and then the next domain action you say, hey, we're not going to pay these guys, they basically turn into enemy units within your territory.
Oh, write that down.
Is there a way to disband them, or are they hired like permanently and then?
You can, but basically what it involves is like paying them off. Like, hey, great job during the wars. Here's a bonus payment. Thanks so much for your efforts. Now get lost, but in a nicer way. And then they don't become bandits. If you try to basically just dismiss them without paying them any kind of a bonus fee, they will almost for surely turn bandit.
I'll talk to her.
Well, I don't necessarily know if we need to hire anybody, guys. I mean, I don't know about what y'all are thinking. I mean, we could, but I don't think based on what I'm seeing for us, we need to.
Yeah, I got 4 versus 3 right now.
Well, and again, I want to remind you that on War Move 1, wherever they move, they'll either face these two or these two. You guys won't be able to move to reinforce your units on War Move 1, right? So basically, if they move in, immediately it's battle. Do you stand and fight or do you retreat? On War Move 1, let's say, for example, they move here. you could say on war move 1 you want these guys to move up, but they don't get there until war move 2. So if all 3 of these units were to enter this province or this province, it's going to be these 3 against whatever 2 you have.
Yeah, copy that. But it's still we
Yeah.
have 4 ready at least. 5 really.
You technically have 5 at the moment at your disposal, right?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be in the fight. So we might lose those units in those fights, you know.
Right, but we have a bonus in Riverford.
You have a castle there, yes. And basically, in order to neutralize your castle and actually start like sieging your castle, they would have to bring enough units to match the level of your castle. Your castle is a level 5, which means they would have to bring 5 army units in there to neutralize and begin sieging your castle. As far as you can tell, based on your scouts, they only have 3 units.
I mean, we could do we could hire mercenary irregulars. They're the cheapest of them, right? And throw them down there with the scouts and the archers, and then reinforce them with our infantry on our next war move. I mean, we could do that, you know, and at least make sure that if we do take losses, that it's not our scouts. You know what I mean? It's mercs.
Yeah. I vote to protect our fighting men and women out there.
Yeah, it's 3 gold bars to muster them, and it's 1 gold bar for maintenance. So that would be our cheapest option. I'm down for that. I don't know what you guys.
I'm down for that, dude. You make the decision to kind of get through this first war thing, but I don't know if we really need to hire mercenaries. Is kind of where my mindset is. But sounds good too.
I agree too, but I just don't want here's what I could see happening that could be bad. These guys joining these guys and then all 3 of them attacking here, right? And then you got cavalry, infantry, and skirmishers all in one against scouts and archers, while
Yeah.
our dudes are up here. You know what I mean? And we would have to come down, and then we would, you know. So if we just plant one right here, then we would at least give ourselves a little bit of barrier infantry-wise, and have some archers to be able to throw some haymakers. And the scouts got some missiles too. I don't think we, you know, need them, but I think it's a safer option to buy.
Sounds good to me.
I agree with that.
Now the second question is, guys, do we want to join in this fight or not?
Yeah, I think
You know what my vote would be. I mean, obviously, my vote as Dylan and my character as Vin, what they would vote. But I mean, as a council, what do you guys think?
Dian would join the regent for sure. If you went, I would go.
And I'm not much of an archer.
DM, are there other spells that are battle worthy, like slow, for instance, or?
So the way, I don't want to try to go through and tell you every single spell, because part of this is trial and error, but I would say as a general rule, a spell has to affect at least, say, a 1/5 of the army forces in order for it to be effective. So what I mean by that is a unit is 200 men. So if you have a spell that says, like slow, I think says select 6 people, or I don't know exactly what it says, but basically if you can hit at least, say, 40 of those people with the spell, then it probably will have some effect.
Yeah, slow is 6 people, so.
Right, so even if it worked, which in battles and a war, let's assume all 6 failed, that's not enough of an impact to actually do anything on a large scale like an army unit.
So, my lord, as I would be effective on the field because I can cause a storm to come down within 150 feet. Sleet storm would probably qualify right at him.
Sleet storm, you said?
Yeah.
Cold lightning probably too, wouldn't it?
I could take on 40 of them myself. Ah!
You and Serena could take on a whole unit.
Yeah, if you go, my lord, I will be with you.
Sleet storm is the same size as fireball.
Yeah,
Sleet
so
storm is actually twice as big as fireball.
It would have an effect, but to tell you the exact effect, essentially, you're not going to know exactly what it does, but I will say yes, that one will work, and I have the rules of that type of spell falls under a particular category of war spells. Looking at it right now, so yes, it will have an effect, but I can't tell you exactly what that will be at this point.
Yes. Okay. I feel like I could contribute, my lord.
And the cards don't affect anything in this area, right?
If you mean your personal cards, no, because those are strictly for individual actions.
Okay.
Lord Tannen, here's 300 gold pieces. Can you send someone to go buy me a diamond's worth of 300 gold pieces, which the spell consumes, please? If he, I have Revivify now, so I want to
Yeah, I was
sure.
about to say, I know what that's for.
Lord Cannon nods and he says, in fact, what I will do is I will hold the money here. I will send an individual out to a store I know that has that, ask them to bring it here, and then we'll exchange it here so there's no risk of it being lost in transit, Counselor.
Excellent.
Great idea, Tannen. That's why we have you around, man. You are chock full of good ideas. All right. Well, it sounds like you guys are ponying up to the idea of fighting. Well, I
So-
can command a group of archers for sure.
So I want to pause real quick and say, do we have, I think I heard 2 yeses, but yes, you want to muster the unit of mercenary regulars for 3 gold bars?
Oh yeah, that's right. We should finish that conversation. I vote yes. I know that.
I vote aye.
I think playing it safe is probably a good idea.
All right. So we will muster the irregulars. I think that's 4 or
But-
5 of us, Adam.
But you were saying not just another group, right? Not this Elena or what's her name.
Yeah, not the cavalry. I mean, it's 6 gold bars. I mean, we could politely say that, with war on our borders, we can't afford to hire such a large unit or something along those lines. But this one is literally half the cost of what she's offering, and it would give us some pretty good protection, I'm thinking.
All right, I vote aye.
Mercenary irregulars, they've got movement 2.
All right, that has been posted. Sheet has been updated, and I will drag a unit of mercenary regulars onto the map.
And then, Adam, just for my sake, with these
Large
petitioners,
unit.
we got like
I forgot
think it's like tomorrow, right? Tomorrow is the day we're supposed to see all these petitioners.
Yes, it is very soon. I will put it that way. Meaning, without checking my calendar at the moment, yes.
Would they all be willing to take a rain check while we deal with this problem?
Yeah. I mean, obviously they work on your time. You don't have to work on theirs.
Except the banker. Maybe Lord Tannen, could you allow the petitioners to know that the council is going off to assist in this battle, and we will see them all when we get back. And we definitely should talk with this banker about a loan. While everyone's here, maybe we should agree on just exactly that.
My lord, do you what specifically do you mean? You wish me to tell the banker to wait here because you wish to speak with him, or some other arrangement?
I'm saying that we'll probably need the loan sooner rather than later, so the rest of the petitioners, they can solder off for a few weeks. But talking to that guy who has all that money, well, that may be imperative now.
I see. So you wish for me to try to get him here sooner.
Council, what do you think?
Well, what are you thinking, Vin? Because
Thinking our payroll is 9 and we have 12.75 gold bars.
but we will have money coming in at the same time, right? Or does that happen at a different time?
Sure, but let's say it's 6. That's still we're not going to make enough money to pay our payroll. I'm thinking a loan of 10.
But we got to see what his
Depending on his rate.
terms are and whatnot. It's It was a little fishy with the way he was claiming to just be here out of the kindness of his heart.
I agree, and I think it's at least from a business standpoint, someone who can lend money to powerful people will then be requested to lend money again in the future from other powerful people. So it could just be a business play. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure our treasury stays stocked so we can continue to fight off these intruders and then recover. At least get our treasury back to what it was when we took over at 20. So maybe 7.25 if he'd be willing.
I'm not a man of money, but don't you want to find out the costs associated with that before you start planning how much you're gonna get?
It's a good point, but if he just shows up and then he just says these are the rates and we don't have any plan about what kind of money we need, well, then that's kind of foolish too.
I say go big, just get 20. Spit on ourselves, you know?
Don't think that would be smart, Blitzel. Don't want to get in too much debt right away. We could always ask Moriad for a hand, or we could even ask Moriad to send maybe a group of soldiers to assist us. We know they have them there on the border.
Well, we were going to meet him in the next couple of days, right?
I don't think it's been confirmed when we're going to meet him, but we did send a message about it.
Sure. I mean, if it makes you feel better, we'll meet him earlier. Why not?
Well, that's not what I'm saying right now. I'm saying, of course, we could get money in the future, but right now we have someone who probably could give us some change currently in this moment, and I think it's at least smart to talk about it.
All right. So, is there any other immediate decisions you guys wish to do before we move into the first war move? All right. Sounds like you guys are good for now then. All right. So, here comes the first war move. So, as part of the first war move, the troops from Thurazor, the Wolf Riders, march into Melivienne, as does the Goblin Infantry and the Goblin Skirmishers. So, your decision now with your archers, scouts, and mercenary irregulars, do you stand and fight or do you retreat?
I'd say fight.
So Adam, on their turn, so our scouts and folks like that, right? So those folks will have an attack this time, but we would still be able to bring the other folks to move them in on their turn, correct?
So the battle would take place right away unless you choose to retreat, then you would retreat. Then you would have your war move 1, right? So this is their war move 1. They've entered the province, and immediately you have to decide whether to stand and fight or retreat. If you fight, we determine the results of that battle, and we see what happens there. Then we move to your war move 1, which could be you moving more troops from your other provinces in.
Hear me out.
But if you retreat, you wouldn't be able to move them again because they already moved.
You would not be able to move them again on War Move 1. You would have to wait until War Move 2 to move them.
Mm-hmm.
I also will say, again, I don't think this will come into play right away, but if the enemy forces hold your province at the end of 4 war moves, there are some bad things they can do in your province, such as pillaging it or occupying it.
Hear me out. What if we retreated and pulled the archers, the scouts, and the irregulars back into Mountain's Edge? And then we pushed forward with infantry, archers, Or at least let them come to us, right? We could pack full both of the other provinces, have 3 and 3. I don't mind fighting. I'm just saying other options. We could split them up and have archers go up, and then 2 go right, and then both of our other provinces would have 3.
Do the units do the things that happen to units in battles persist between battles? Like say for example we lose this first battle, but we get like a couple hits on them. If we were then to move in with the rest of our guys, would they still have those hits on them, or would they refresh?
The hits do not remain, only destroying the unit sticks.
So Magic the Gathering rules, not Hearthstone.
You have to think
I'm
of
not
it,
familiar with either of those. But yeah,
Yeah.
basically hits are temporary, destruction is permanent.
We can't leave them alone for 4 rounds, but we've got 4 rounds of war moves to go. So we could draw them in further into the province and then trap them, right?
We could make a huge death ball, but then they have the option to retreat, right? If we were to move on our turn.
So they have moved in on war move 1. If they only have 1 movement point, they would not be able to also retreat on war move 1. So if they are slow moving units and you attack with your other units on war move 1, they would have to stay and fight. But a faster moving unit, let's say Wolf Riders, you're pretty sure they have more than 1 movement. If they chose to retreat, they could.
Could they retreat into a... I guess they couldn't, right? Into an occupied province? They would have to go back to one of theirs?
They would have to go back to one of theirs unless they happen to be allied with the 5 Peaks or Moriad, in which case you can move units into an allied province.
All right, guys, let's hear what you want to do. Dean, Chief Counselor, what you thinking?
We hold the line.
Lexo, what you thinking?
Are the mercenaries better than our infantry?
Say they're probably right around the same. Maybe not as high of a defense because they're scrapped together, but I'd say they probably got a good melee.
I can actually show you that. Let me bring you over to the war board.
So they got a missile too. I mean, we could, if we think about it, like look at the war board. There's 3 lines, right? So they would have to travel down 1 to get to us. We could have maybe some archers on one side pulled away and bombard them with some hits from the side. I mean, we definitely could use the map to our advantage and our missiles to our advantage.
That's the only reason why I'm leaning towards fighting, is because archers are good against cavalry.
Mm-hmm.
But
I will also throw out there really quickly, as you guys are discussing this, if you stand and fight, as the defenders, you decide where your units go first. So as a reminder, this is the reserve. You cannot fight from the reserve. Think of this as almost like a collection area where people fall back to. If you don't have any units on the actual battlefield, meaning one of these black boxes, you have essentially lost the field at that point and you have lost the battle. So when the battle starts, I would say, where do you want to put your units? And you can move your units to any of this first line that you wish. So like I said, you could put archer here, scout here, a regular there. You could put 2 of them in this one and 1 way over here. You can decide what you want to do. Once they see what you do, then the enemy decides where they put their units up here.
And do they then act immediately? Like, what's the turn order for like an in-battle thing?
Yes, so the way it works is there is a small schematic that decides this. There's 3 different phases as part of a battle. The first is called the movement phase, so they move first, then you move. Then we do the attack phase, and that goes in a particular order. So magical attacks are first, stationary missile attacks are second, charge attacks are third, melee attacks are fourth, moving missile attacks are fifth. So depending on what you do, that's what goes first. Then we move into the morale phase. If any units had to flee, then they have to do that. And then we start back at the top, back in the movement phase in round 2.
All right, and in terms of our characters commanding units so they can use spells, we established that before the battle begins, correct?
You would have to, yeah. So now again, what I want to be really clear here is if you take control of a unit, this is going to be a little bit challenging, but I want to make sure you understand you can no longer discuss with others that are commanding other units or that are in the back because you're nowhere physically close to them. So unless you have some kind of magic that allows you to communicate, you can't, right? So for example, if you're having trouble over here and you're thinking, it would really be good if Celine moved her units over here, you can't say that because there's no way for you to communicate to her at that point. So if you're in the back, you can communicate simple instructions to all your units, like charge or missile or fall back. You can communicate basics like that. And if you're in control of the unit, you can do whatever you want with the unit, of course. But if one of you is in control of this unit and one of you is in control of this unit and you are in different areas, you cannot talk to each other because you're not physically close. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. So what if one of us is, let's say Celine is here, let's say Dean is here, and Blixel is here, right? And then me and Tavard are back here. Can we then, Tavard and I, communicate?
You could communicate very basic terms, such as archer shoot or scout move forward, like very basic things. What you can't do is say, hey, Celine, how about you go and fight those guys because I'm going to come up from the other angle with this, like way too complex. It has to be...
Yeah,
so
but we could say, like, charge the archers. You know what I mean? That would make sense, right?
Yes, something that's that basic, yes.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, well, I think that's 2 votes for fight, guys. The only thing I'm worried about is losing the scouts right away, or any of these guys, honestly. But yeah, I'm down, and then we could use our turn the next time to pull forward some more help.
All right, so it sounds like stand and fight is the decision. If anybody disagrees, please speak now. All right, so the next question is, who is actually going to take control of a unit?
Well, can we? I thought we were in Carolinian.
So again, the timing's a little bit wonky here, but while they're charging in, that technically takes like a week, right? So during the time you're getting advance notice, oh yeah, we see them move, you could easily get there. It's like a day walking. So if you wish to, you absolutely could.
I feel like what happens if your unit is routed or destroyed when you're the commander of it?
If your unit is destroyed, basically you are killed unless the enemy forces decide to capture you for some reason. If your unit is routed, you just retreat with them until you get to the back. If you make it back to the reserves, you're totally fine.
Whew, all right, guys.
It's
We're in
real
this
risky,
shit.
boys. Do we want to...
Yeah. But
Let's-
Firewall is a big advantage. I could see it being a huge advantage.
Unless you get fucked by a card.
But he's gonna not lead a unit. He's gonna let the soldiers do the soldiering.
All right, Blixel, do you want to be in the back, like as part of the general, back area, or do you not want to be there at all?
Well, he wants to make sure the security of the castle is established first and foremost before he goes anywhere. So if that interferes with it, then he doesn't come at all, and he tries to get the castle so there's no more people able to get in.
So you still have 2 units of troops in Riverford, and then the castle itself is defended by like 50 troops that are part of the castle. So you don't think I guess what I would say at a high level, it's secure, right? Now, if there's some, magical assassin or something, sure, something crazy could happen. But in general terms, you believe the castle is secure.
Okay, well then he'll be in the back, I guess, in the planning council area.
All right, so I'm going to keep you in the back. You're basically on the battlefield here, but you're not involved. You're not leading the troops. You can be part of the flag squad, with that. So let's see. I'm just going to go in order here then. So Celine, are you in the back, taking control of a unit, or not being there, period?
I would much rather be with. Can we see the infantry again?
Yeah, I can show you the
Yeah,
infantry.
I know they're not part of this group, but I want to compare the stats to the irregulars. I feel like it would make the most sense for her to be with the most defensive one, right? So they can like build a wall while she's dropping drone strikes from behind, and we don't have that in this group. Like, I would rather see a combat play out before I commit like a whole ass character, you know?
Makes sense.
Just to see how like relevant the defensive stats and stuff are, because I have no idea how this combat's gonna play out. So
War is
if we just
hell,
get
as they
raised
say.
down. Yeah, I know. What do you think, Dylan? I think the better way to do this is if this group loses, then we take command of like the next guys coming in, because then some of them probably aren't going to be able to retreat, and then we have a better idea of like how this is going to go, right?
But what if they
Right.
win? Then you don't get any of the glory.
I'll learn to live with that.
Yeah.
I don't
We'll
think
be
your
all
character
right.
cares about glory.
I actually agree with that. I think we should, because none of us know how a battle plays out in this scenario, both as players and as you know, if we think about it as our characters, this is our first chance. So just getting in there and riding in on horseback without knowing anything just sounds a little risky. However, I'm not gonna let Dean, if Dean's feeling like going out there, going by himself. So I will command a group of archers if Dean wants to take control of some of his magic. But I'll leave that up to Brian and Dean's character. Or
I
Dean
think
and
I think it's foolish for the king to go out into battle. But if you go, I will go, is what I said. But I don't think I can even help in this scenario, so it's not like it would be a benefit. So
all right. So then maybe we'll all be generals from the back for the first fight here, and we'll talk and as a group
yeah, that sounds good.
instruct.
All right, so one other thing I'll point out is if you guys are all in the back, if all of your forces happen to be destroyed, there would be like all of the surviving enemies obviously are going to charge right towards you. So what I would say is if a fast moving unit, the general rule is, what I'll tell you guys this is, let's say your units were routed, let's say your irregulars were routed and your scouts were routed. If they have cavalry on their side, for every unit of cavalry that survives, they can automatically kill one of your retreating units because they're so much faster. They basically catch up to them and run them down before they can get away. So again, you don't know exactly their statistics or anything like that, but what I will tell you is wolf riders are essentially considered cavalry for this term. So if all three of your units were destroyed, you're going to have to deal with a unit of wolf riders, which again comprises about 200 goblins on wolves with spears and throwing weapons and that sort of thing.
I'll take the first 200.
Can infantry attack diagonally?
No, nobody can attack. So it's a good question. You don't attack away from you. You only attack when you enter the same space. So, for example, if this unit was here and this unit was here, and this unit chooses to move like this, now these two units could be engaged. If you have multiple units in that same space, it could be this one's engaged with this one or this one's engaged with this one. Shooting, like missile weapons, archers do shoot one space away. So you can shoot one space away. You cannot shoot diagonal, and you can never move diagonal. So as a unit, you're either moving side to side or straight or back.
Yeah, but you said units can occupy the same spaces. So if we wanted an archer to shoot that spot, we could have them move here and then shoot and then move back.
So again, technically yes, but remember the order. So stationary missile goes before mobile missile, which means if you move and then shoot, you're the slowest attacker. If you don't move and you shoot, you're one of the fastest attackers. And that's important because if, let's say, the enemy was coming like this and they're here and you shoot them, you could destroy their entire unit before they even do anything to you. But if you move and they didn't move, if they can shoot, they can actually shoot you right when you move it. So you just want to remember the timing.
Who determines who engages with it? Is it the attacker's or defender's choice? Like if there's multiple units stacked in one space and an enemy moves in, like do they pick who they're targeting?
Yes, yep. So the aggressor, whoever is attacking, if multiple units are in that space, they get to decide which unit they engage with.
Whew. All right, guys, you ready?
And I mean, if you guys want to, what I would say is it won't be exactly the same, but we can play out one test round just so you can see how it works. It won't be real, right? And I'm not going to use the same tactics I would use for that when it's real, right? But at least it'll give you an understanding, and then we would do the real battle if you guys want to.
I'm a
Sure.
big participant in tutorials, so I think that would be wise.
Is everybody up for then just doing like a quick mock battle?
Yeah, sounds important.
Okay, so for mock battle purposes then, who is there anybody that wants to command a unit?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
I'll take
yeah.
the irregulars.
I got the archers. If this is a mock battle and I can't actually die from it, I'm gonna take the archers.
All right, and anybody else? Does anybody else want to command the scouts?
No, they die in one hit.
Yeah. Hang on, Celine. Look, if it's just a mock battle, why don't you do it so we can see what fireball looks like?
General Celine. Woo hoo.
Yeah, man, fuck it.
All right, Saline,
Here,
mock battle.
Do you want to take the archers and I take the scouts? I'll
It
switch
doesn't
with
matter.
you.
It's a mock battle.
Yeah, but for your own.
All right,
comfort.
so here's our mock battle, and then I'm going to assume that Blixel and Tavit are both in the back. So I'll throw you guys on there. Now, the two of you, like I say, technically you can communicate in very limited. So I'll just say right off the bat, apologies if I interrupt you as you start talking. But if you start talking and you're starting to say complex things that other people shouldn't be able to hear, you may hear say, hey, hang on a sec, you actually can't say that, right? Because remember, once they're away from you, you can only communicate very simple things. So this is a perfect time with the tutorial, right? So what we'll start with is you guys are first. Where would you like to put your units? If you choose to keep units in reserves, you can do that. But if all your units on the board are wiped out, you lose the battle and you immediately go into essentially like retreat mode.
How far
All
up
right.
onto the? Can you go to there?
Just,
can you go to the?
just the first row.
Gotcha. Okay.
Also,
So-
you guys are fighting in what is known as a plains province, so there's nothing special here. But if you were fighting in, say, a forest or in the province where you have a castle, I would be giving you a terrain card that you would get to place anywhere on the battlefield that you want. But again, this is plain, doesn't have anything.
So the move 2 is nothing to do with the squares, the rectangles.
It does exactly that. Yeah. So if you wish to move right now, you're just deciding where you started, right? But when you start, you can only start in the first row. But when battle actually begins, move 2 means you can move 2 spaces.
Okay.
The move happens first, and then combat.
Correct.
Okay. Then I feel like the scouts should stay in reserve, right? Because if they get targeted and the aggressor goes first, then
What? I
there's a
can't
good
hear
chance
you.
they'd-
I can't hear you. What? What?
So
This-
as
Yeah,
you
just
can
remember they can only start on their first line too.
So you
Yeah,
can do that, Saline, but now reminder, or not even a reminder, because it's probably the first time we've discussed this. If you're in the reserves, coming out of the reserves, you can put yourself in any one of these spaces, but that's all you can do that turn. So you can't, for example, pop out and then immediately move.
Sure. But we think the enemy is going to close on us. So if I am here, then they attack, I advance. They're occupying their space, right? Or do they back up after they attack?
No, you don't back up unless you get a result that says like fall back. Then you would have to back up. And also remember, this is like an ambiguous space. So even though you've placed the card here, that is the same spot as here, anywhere in this back. It's all considered one space.
I understand.
Okay. All right. Is everybody good where you're at right now?
Yep.
Locked in.
All right, so now it's the enemy's turn, and they, of course, are going to try to put their units in a spot that makes the most sense for them. So based on what they see here, they are going to go with their Wolf Riders there. Their infantry there. And their skirmishers there. All right, so movement phase is the attacker goes first. All right, so we see that the Wolf Riders have a movement of 2. So they are going to move 1, 2, and they are going to attempt to charge the irregulars. The Goblin Infantry has a move of 1. It is going to move here, and the irregulars have a 1. They're going to move there. It is now your turn for movement.
And I can't move because I'm engaged, correct?
Yes, correct.
Have they chosen their engagement target, or does that happen at a different phase?
So because there's only one target in that space, that's who they engage with.
Okay, so if I were to move in, then they could not target the scouts, or could they?
They couldn't right now because you're not there at this moment. If you move out of the reserves, it's kind of like you spend that turn getting out of that space.
I understand. And would I be able to use my my fireball, or how does that work?
No, you have to be on the battlefield and in an actual spot in order to engage in the battle. The reserves, this like nebulous area that's not really there, right? You're kind of like back.
And fireball, is it 1 square forward or sideways like archery because it's a missile?
It is, yeah, but as a reminder, you can never attack from the reserves.
Yeah. But if she
Well,
were to
So I
put it
would
there,
basically spend my whole turn getting on the battlefield then, and then I wouldn't get to do anything.
You got it.
Okay.
And they can't go right on top here, or couldn't they, and just not fight?
The scouts?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
But
could if they
they're-
want.
No problem.
Okay, so Dean is engaged, so he's obviously not moving. Now, Vin, your movement, do you wish to move? And again, now what I will point out to you is the difference between stationary missile attack and moving missile attack. So you haven't moved yet, and remember, you can shoot 1 space away. So because these Wolf Riders are charging, if you do not move, you can actually take 1 shot at them before they charge Dean's irregulars.
yeah, that's what I was thinking because I also get additional bonus to versus mounted units. So that's why I put it here beside it. I was hoping they would charge them on. So, huzzah!
Okay, so it sounds like you're not moving, and then so we'll go to Saline. Are you coming out of the reserves or staying there, Saline?
So to understand this correctly, these guys, not the Wolf Riders, but the other guys have 1 movement. So
Correct.
this guy up top, he can move on his turn 1 down, but he cannot attack because he can't get into... Well, I guess he can because he has a missile.
He could use a mobile missile attack if he wished, yes.
Okay. But if they didn't have a missile attack, they would not be able to
Correct.
get here.
And in general, if you have a missile attack and you're shooting into a space where there are both friendly and enemy units, you have a chance of hitting your ally, like your own units, because everybody's fighting. You can't just selectively target only the enemy. Now, when it comes to like the charge, because these archers were prepped and ready to go and haven't moved, they actually get to shoot before they get here. So he will have no chance of hitting Dean's irregulars. But if this guy was to move down on his turn and then choose to missile attack, he would risk hitting his Wolf Riders.
That's very interesting. So then I assume that a fireball spell would be the same, like...
No, because your fireball is precise, right? Like you don't shooting a rain of arrows down. You can literally pick exactly where you want it to go. So you can say fireball that unit.
Interesting. I mean... I get... So magic goes first.
It does. That is true.
I know I can't do it this turn.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is maybe I come out like on Vin's space and then... Or can I do that? Does it have to be an unoccupied?
No, you can come out on that space if you wish.
Okay, maybe we do that. So I have to deploy, and then that's my turn. But then on the next turn, I can do what I gotta do. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, so that is the movement phase. Now we go to the attack phase. There's no magical attacks, so we move to stationary missile attack. So Vin, you wish to shoot at the Wolf Riders.
That is correct. And
All
then
right.
also, Dean has a missile attack on his. Even though he's getting charged, would he have been able to fire a missile attack too?
He
Or how
can if
does
he
that?
Yep, he can if he wishes. That's also considered a stationary missile attack.
Does he only get one attack?
Yes, everybody only gets one.
Gotcha. Okay.
What about
If you level
monks?
up enough
I
to
mean,
get
what if I
extra
use flurry of firing?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no army units of monks, so
Well,
All
I
right.
think
That's an idea.
you said it was a bonus or some benefit with the stationary. I'll try that.
all right. So let's just do this one at a time. So we're gonna go with Vin first, right? Just because that's the order we're going. It's not really critical at this point. But Vin, you're firing at the Wolf Riders as they charge in, so you get to make your attack now. Give me a intelligence check
As Vin,
as Vin.
Vin probably shouldn't be commanding many battles. Hey, not
Okay.
bad.
So you are trying to get your troops aligned. You're trying to make sure they go where they're supposed to go. You give them their commands. Nothing special. Just do what they're supposed to. Your check results in no impact on this roll. Next part
Nice.
is please roll me a d6.
Okay.
All right,
Nice.
you got a 6. So what that means now is I'm going to pick the 6th war card, or battle card, sorry. I'm going to put this out here. All right, so how we read this now is we look at, you are considered the attacker because you shot. Your icon is cross swords. So we look at that attacker's icon and we go down until we find cross swords, found it. Then the Wolf Riders are also cross swords. So it's cross swords versus cross swords, okay? Your attack right now, you have a missile of 4, but +1 versus mounted units. That's a 5. The Wolf Riders defense is a 3, which means it is a +2. So we look at cross swords, +2. We see a dash. That means you fired at them, but there's no impact, or you might have shot and killed a couple of them, but not enough to score a hit on the unit. Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah. At the bottom, there's the legend FHRD. I see. Okay.
Now we remove this battle card. All right, and now we go to Dian. Do you wish to make a stationary missile attack?
I do.
All right, now your missile is 2. Give me an intelligence check, please.
Oh, I meant. Oh, are you sure it wasn't wisdom? Oh.
Unfortunately not. Oh, there you go. Okay, so it was meant to be. All right,
Nice.
so your commands are good enough. You're good enough at organizing them, whether it's your just knowledge of what things are going here. You've optimized this. You can increase any one of your 4 stats, move, melee, defense, or missile, by 1. That will last until the next round.
Oh. The defense.
Okay, so your defense goes up to a 3 for until the next round. All right, so now your stationary missile. So your missile is a 2, and please roll me a d6 to see which battle card we get. Okay, there's 4. So here comes the 4th battle card. All right, and you are flag versus cross swords. So flag versus cross swords, we see that. And you are firing at a 2. They are a defense 3, which means you are a -1. So if we look at flag, cross swords, -1, no impact, right? So again, you shoot at the Wolf Riders, but nothing major happens.
Okay.
Everybody following that before I remove the card?
Yep. So far, we're not the best, but we're not bad.
All right,
Okay.
that's stationary. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Got a question for you. So there was some other tokens that were on the actual map. Are we able to move them into the ready section here?
If you mean the tokens in the other provinces, if you choose to move them, it takes them a war move to get to the province of Melivian, which means they're not going to be any kind of factor on this battle.
Okay, all right. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, no problem.
We can draw it out a week.
So stationary missile attacks are now complete. Now we do charge attacks. So we see that the Wolf Riders have a charge of 4. Dian's defense is a 3 now, thanks to his intelligent way of directing his troops. So Dian, roll me a d6 again. All right, we pick the 5th card. All right, and we look at cross swords versus flag and charge 4. So cross swords versus flag at a +1. So cross swords, flag +1, nothing happens, right? So again, they've charged. So basically everything, you can think of this in battle as, some people are getting hurt, some people have probably been killed, but it's not enough of a value yet to have an actual impact. Okay, so I'm removing that card. So the next thing would be melee attacks. No one's left that can make a melee attack. Moving missile attacks, nobody moved. So now we go to the morale phase. Nobody suffered any fallbacks or routes, so there's no morale issues to deal with. We are back to the top with the movement phase. Now they charge you. They can't charge again, so they would have to attack you in melee if they choose. Now, because they are cavalry and you are not, meaning they're mounted and you're not, they have the advantage of they can disengage from you, but you could not disengage from them because they're too fast for essentially for you to disengage. But what they're going to do is they're going to now move into the space with our archers and scouts to try to harass them. And then our infantry is going to move down and our skirmishers are going to move over. All right, now we move to archer's turn. You can decide what you do if you're movement specifically. So now
I can disengage, right?
Hang on one sec. Okay, so the enemy has moved into your space. He gets to decide which of your units he's engaging. So he wants to engage your archers, which means you are now locked in place. You can't move. So then we move to Dian. Would you like to move?
Yeah, because this says +1 to melee attacks against irregulars, and that's exactly what I am.
Okay, so where would you like to move?
Away from them.
Exactly. I'm going to move here. I think. Why not?
He can move 2, right? Because they
He
have
could,
2.
yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Oh, that's true. I can move 2. Yeah, but I want to move 1. That sounds good.
All right, if your movement is done, then we move to Saline Scout. Would you like to move?
If I move, I can still cast Fireball?
You can.
Okay. Then that is what I want to do because he already declared he's attacking the archers, I guess. But
yes.
Yeah. I just don't want to be in range of the missile guy to the left. So I will move to the right.
Okay.
And then when it comes to my attack turn, I guess I will
So you have 3 movement, just clarifying you're done moving.
I don't see any value in moving any further.
Okay, so you're done moving. Now we move to the attack phase. Step 1 is resolve magical attacks. So you would like...
Yeah, can I do a Sleet Storm as well, since I move?
You can, yep.
Okay, let's try it, if I can, or if whoever wants to go first.
So let's do the fireball first. So, Saline, you're wanting to fireball the Wolf Riders.
I am calling me the U.S. government because I'm calling in a drone strike.
Okay, so throw me a spell effect roll.
Okay.
All right, and then roll a d6. Okay, so you rolled average on your spell effect roll, no bonuses or anything like that. So with a fireball, you get the best result possible. So we're going to look at +3 against the Wolf Riders. So you are flag versus cross swords. Flag versus cross swords +3. They suffer 1 hit. So we look at the Wolf Riders. We see that they are now injured. So you can think of your fireball as killing, 60, 70, 80 Wolf Riders, something like that, have been badly hurt. And now they are on 1 hit.
And why does that the best result possible?
Because you used fireball. When you use a fireball spell, that's basically you get the best result possible. If you roll a bad spell effect roll, it would be technically not as bad. And if you roll even better, well, we'll find out when that happens.
I see.
Okay, so that was the Wolf Riders. I'm sorry, that was your spell. So now we move to Dian. You want to use your spell as well.
No, I can't do it diagonally, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I'll hit the skirmishers, please.
Okay, so you cast this in the skirmishers area. So this is going to fall under what is the classification of fog spells. So the effect is no unit may fire missile into or out of the area affected by these spells. No unit may charge from, into, or through this area. So that area is essentially covered in sleet at this moment, and it's kind of locked down, you may say.
Nice.
Oh.
That's cool. Little terrain buff.
All right, I'm just going to throw an icon on that space. Just going to do that, keep it simple. Okay, so that is the effect of the Sleet Storm. All right, so that was our magical attack. We then move to resolve stationary missile attack. So you can't shoot archers because you are engaged, but the scouts technically they move, so they can't, and Dian moves so that he can't either. No charge attacks. There's no. Oh yes, now we go melee attacks. All right. So the Wolf Riders are attacking the archers. We see that the Wolf Riders with 1 hit have a melee of 2. So the Wolf Riders are going to attack the archers who have a defense of 2. Ben, throw me a d6. All right, that is battle card 1. All right, so cross swords versus cross swords at it looks like even, right? So 2 attack, 2 defense. Yep, even. So H, defending unit takes 1 hit. So the Wolf Riders have managed to wound the archers. So we do this.
They got me.
All right, that was the melee. Nobody else is in melee. Resolve moving missile attacks. So our 2 missile options here. So the irregulars.
Wait. I don't get to fight back?
No, you're just defending. Now, if you want to do a melee attack against them, you could.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because, like, I mean, otherwise my turn would just be wasted. I would just be sitting there and just take a wallop and nothing happened. But
Well,
at least I could try to shoot them.
You can attack them in melee because you're engaged. You can't shoot them. Now, keep in mind, if you choose to do that, we draw another battle card, and it's possible you get hit again.
True.
Can you take the defensive action or something?
Basically, your defensive action is to not attack them. So then there's no chance of like suffering damage at that point. But really, at this point, you're locked down. So unless somebody knocks those Wolf Riders off you, you're pretty much boned.
Unless I hit them and kill them.
That's certainly possible. Yep. Yeah. Remember, if you attack on this round, you attack at a melee of 2 because it would be concurrent at the same time as the Wolf Riders. So if you wish to melee them, you would be at 2 against their defense of 3.
Their defense doesn't go down because they took a hit from the fireball.
It doesn't. If you look on the hit there, no, actually on the hit, it doesn't show their defense goes down. If it did, it would say it there.
I see, but my melee went down to 1.
It did. It did, but remember, since it's concurrent, you're still attacking at a 2 right now.
What do you think, guys? I mean, it's just a
Go for it.
simulation.
Hold the line.
Yeah,
Yep.
right?
And again, in a tutorial, that's like that. What you just said right there, tutorial, totally fine. But in real battle, nobody else can weigh in, right? Because they can't actually talk to you.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, Vin's he's gonna tell him to charge and try to wipe out these wolves, what's left of them.
All right, throw me a d6. All right, you get the first card.
Well, that was the one from before, Adam.
Oh, my
I got
bad.
a 3.
Let me pull out the third card then. All right, third card. You are swords versus swords, and you are a -1. So H, defending unit, takes 1 hit. Yeah, so you did indeed manage to hit them again. Because they suffered 2 hits, they don't have another hit here. This unit would be destroyed.
Suck it, Goblin Riders.
Nice.
But because this is a tutorial, I'm just going to throw them back up here in the reserves.
Yeah, cool. I can't move now, right? Now that they're off me, I don't get like a movement.
You do not.
All right, cool.
All right, so that was the melee phase. Now we move to moving missile attacks. So mercenary or regulars, do you wish to shoot?
Yes. Can I shoot at the skirmishers?
Yes, you can. Yep.
Excellent.
Throw me a... Yeah, and we should have actually done this for you as well, Vin, but I forgot. We'll remember next time. Throw me a intelligence check here, Dean.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
You really, really want to use... Okay, so unfortunately this time you are pretty much in disarray as you're trying to like organize your folks. You will take a -1 to one of those 4. What would you like to take a -2?
Move.
All right, your move
Oh,
becomes a 1.
yes.
All right, fair enough. So then throw me a d6. All right, we will take the 3rd card. All right, your missile is 2 against their defense of 1. So you're attacking at a +1, and it's flag versus flag. +1, H, so they're going to take a hit. Now, of course, they're also going to shoot you because they moved and they have a missile. So it's 2 on 2. Throw me a d6 in. We'll take the 4th card.
What about their intelligence check?
For NPCs, we don't do it just to make it faster. But all right, so this is flag versus flag, 2 versus 2, so equal. Flag versus flag on equal. H, the defending unit takes 1 hit. So essentially, you both shot at each other. You both suffered a hit. And then that all gets canceled because remember, with the sleet storm, you can't shoot into that square, and they wouldn't be able to shoot out of it. So yeah, I forgot about the sleet already. So ignore that.
But that was fun. It's a good tutorial.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Okay, and then let's see, other moving missile. No, there's nobody else that can shoot at this point, so we'd be done with that. Nobody suffered morale at all, so we go back to the top and we do movement. So let's see, these skirmishers, yeah, they're going to just move on top of you. This infantry is going to move to here. Okay, now your choice of movement. So, Vin, do you want to move?
Vin is going to move. He's going to go this square, and then he's going to go to this square here, and he's going to be taking the moving shoot action at him.
Okay, yep, we'll get to that when we get to that. Saline, do you want to move?
Yes. I will move here,
Okay,
and that is enough to get my spell on my turn, correct? Because I can shoot 1 away.
you can, yep.
And then the scouts will also be able to take a moving shot.
You got it.
So that is my movement.
All right, Dean can't move because he's engaged, so then we go to magical attacks.
Here we go.
So spell effect roll. Okay.
Nice.
So
nice.
that's a high enough check. You destroy the creature without even pulling a card.
Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
All right. So that's magical. I don't think we have anything else magical. So stationary missile. Nobody qualifies for, or actually, mercenary regulars have missile, and you haven't moved, so you could do stationary missile if you wish, Dean. Or
As they approached.
Yes, but you only get 1 attack per turn, so you can either do your stationary missile or you can wait and do melee. It's your choice.
I think I'll do melee because I seem I have an advantage.
Okay, so we'll skip stationary missile. There's no charge attacks. We'll move to melee. So we'll start with them meleeing you. Their melee is a 2 against your defense of a 2, so straight up, D60. We take the 3rd card, flag on flag, at a, let's see, what did I say? Melee 2 on 2, so flag on flag 0. Hit, so you will suffer 1 hit. And then you attack simultaneous to them, another d6. All right, we take the 6th card. Whoop, hang on a sec. It was only showing me 5 cards there for a moment. All right, there's the 6th card. Okay, so you are attacking at a 3, and their defense is a 1. Also give me an intelligence check. Should have had you do that before we pull the battle card, but it's tutorial, no biggie. Okay, so you are
For all of us.
extra effective at this point, so you can add 1 to one of your stats.
Melee.
All right, so your melee goes up to a 4. It's a 4 on a 3, so you're attacking at +3. So flag, +3. R, defending takes 1 hit and is routed. So they have to now essentially fall back.
I'm sorry, walk that back. It was
So,
a 4 versus a 3?
Yes, so that was a +3, and it was an R result, which is a rout. So routed units must retreat one area in any direction, except towards the enemy side of the field. So he doesn't want to go through the sleet storm again, so he's going to move to here. Okay, so essentially he's routed, and I would say what you know is the goblin skirmishers are like in a panic at this point, and they're like doing the best they can to try to get back to their reserves.
All right, good tutorial.
Yes.
There is
Set 'em
so
up.
much shit that can go wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
War
I
is
think it's enough.
very chaotic.
I think it's enough for me to stay in the back. My sleet storm wasn't that cool.
All right, is that so? I
don't know,
think
bro. I mean, it could be beneficial. Obviously, I'm not going to force.
Yeah,
you to
it
put your character out
can.
there,
It can, but I'm not gonna get involved in the battles. That was great. Good to it. Good what is it?
tutorial, yes.
Yeah.
So is everybody good? Does anybody have any other questions before we close out this tutorial? All right, so I know we're a little bit early, but let's go ahead and take our break here. I'll reset the battle map, and we will pick up on the other side, folks. I'm going to leave you guys on this map just so you can see the exact units. But yeah, we'll see everybody back in 15.
Sounds good. See you guys in a bit.
All right, we are on the other side, everybody. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that tutorial. Gives you a little bit of understanding of how exactly this is going to work. And is there any last minute questions or other issues you want to bring up before we jump into the battle for real? All right, hearing nothing, let us get us over to the war board. All right, and because it's no longer a tutorial, let's put on a little bit more tempo music. Alrighty, so you guys got to see a sneak preview of how things can go. Obviously, wars can, or even these battles can be dramatically different battle to battle. So I would say be prepared for almost anything to happen. So we'll go back to the original question of, is there anybody that wants to command a unit? All right.
I think we're still on the same playing field. This is a good chance for us to see if we can trim down some body fat on these goblins.
All right. Now, if nobody wants to command a unit, is anybody want to be there in the background, or is everybody remaining in the castle at Cerilia?
I think narratively it makes sense that we're moving out with the reinforcements if it happens.
Okay, so it sounds like no actual PCs will be in this battle. Is everybody in agreement with that?
That's Blixel's plan.
Yeah, so
We're-
they just command themselves then? To the best?
Yes.
Is it an auto battler?
Well,
Yeah, is it?
the units technically have their own leaders, but for mechanical purposes, I will let you guys decide how to do it. But I will assume, you guys aren't on the battlefield. Your, individual PCs aren't at risk. But, you guys can decide almost like as a group, hey, let's move this one there, that one there, kind of a thing. So you'll be in the back just because I want you to feel like you have stakes in this and your decisions matter. Like, I don't want to just roll a die and be like, oh, all you guys died, right?
Okay,
So-
thank you.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
so-
how would Madden play it, right?
Right. So with that in mind, feel free to discuss amongst yourselves. You got your 3 units. It's defender starts first of where you want to put your units. Feel free to discuss.
Hey Adam, then a strategy question. Can you move? Let me get my pointer to be clear. Hold on one sec. Well, I guess can I move from? Hold on. Okay, see this box here?
Yes.
If I had to take one step, could I go here?
No. You're saying
Okay,
like,
so-
can you go across this way and come out this way?
Yeah, it
No,
seems like
it's-
they're.
This is not an 8-bit video game where it's like a side scroller, so no.
So there
Can
might
you move
be
off
some.
the map?
So there might be some advantage with not having anyone flank you or from the other side if we control the corners. There's no
I see what
reason.
you're saying, yeah.
So they're also like Adam. If I go to their side, do I win?
No.
Like there's yeah okay.
Become
So-
promoted
Is there a
to
flag
queen?
on the other side you can capture?
Yeah, exactly.
No, there's no king me, there's no capture the cat, nothing. So technically you can never enter their reserves because that's like an ambiguous area that's not real. It's just away from the battlefield. Same with yours, they can't enter your reserves. But if you knock off all of their units or they knock off all of yours from the actual battle and you only have units in reserves, then that side loses.
Okay. Well, what I learned from the tutorial is that if you're on the sides, no one's gonna come behind you. I guess.
I also like the idea of leaving the scouts in to make their move after we see where they're going with their soldiers, right? So like maybe if we did like the irregulars and then the archers, and then have the scouts in reserves, and because we know the wolf riders are going to charge because of their movement and their speed, because they can go from their spot right into us right away. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And also the irregulars, if they all die, we don't have to pay them a bonus because they won't become bandits.
I
So-
think we're all on the same page on that one.
But don't you, if you wait and don't move and you hold in reserves, are you risking a chance of not shooting when you enter
We
the
won't be
battlefield?
able to. We won't be able to attack. That's correct, but we have a movement advantage on them, is what I'm seeing, because they can only move one. They do have missile attacks though, so I mean they could shoot us theoretically, once they move into the range. But I did like having the scouts come in later, but that's just my vote. I mean, but they do have a 3 right off the bat for missiles, so it would be advantageous to have them out too.
The wolf riders are the primary target because they have the most ability to control the map. And I mean, I don't know if Adam's going to use the same tactics, but if they charge right in to pin somebody down, if everyone else is clumped nearby, they can respond. The issue is, I mean, do we keep the scouts in the stack or do we move them in? Because if they charge, say our archers are in the corner, and then the irregulars are, it doesn't really matter where, probably here. Regardless of who they charge, we get the stationary ranged attack first, right? So if the
Mhm.
scouts and the archers are stacked on top of each other, then they get potentially 2 chances to hit them and take them out before they get to do any damage, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good idea.
But if they
But putting
target,
them in the same spot, we also will limit one of their ability to move if they do get attacked.
that's true.
It's fine.
I like Brian's idea of hugging the corner though, because then we don't have the risk of everybody coming from out here, right?
I'm trying to think where there would be a disadvantage on the corner. That's where I was trying to think.
Well, I mean, like let's say we are stacked over here and they send 2 units down this way, well they could just have one come in this way, right, and corner us. That I mean, I could see that happening.
Yeah, then we can't disengage or try to move back away, right?
You would literally be cornered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that I could see that as a disadvantage. But having people charge you though, if we have the middle spot, you have the most movement possible, right? Because all of our guys have at least 2. So you can move sideways, you can move side and up. So I think having the middle is definitely important. So we should pick middle and then a side,
Yeah.
and then try to defend that quadrant. You know what I mean?
Are we first to get out of the staging area?
Yes, you are the defender, so you have to put all of your units that you wish on the field first.
I suggest we put them all on, correct?
Okay, I agree to that. So we can. Jordan brings up a great point with the missiles, being able to fire upon them coming at us.
I think we stack the archers and the scouts on the same tile.
I was thinking we do scouts on one side, archers on one side of the irregulars. So if they charge the irregulars, then we can shoot them from both sides. Or if they charge one of them, then we can attack from the irregulars position.
The irregulars have a kind of weak missile attack, though.
Yeah, but we can move them into melee. If the wolf riders charge in to, like, let's say the archers, then we can move the impaler or irregulars in for melee against to allow the archers to be able to get the fuck out of there if need be.
If we stack them, though, we could still both give them a chance to defend them, as long as we put them next to the other guys.
Here's a question: If okay, let's play out Dylan's hypothetical scenario there. The cavalry charges the archers and pin them down. If the mercenaries then move in to engage the cavalry, are they both engaged, or can they only be engaged with one unit at a time?
You're only locked down through engagement 1 unit at a time, but multiple units can attack the same unit.
I understand. So what I'm saying is, say the archers survive the hit from the cavalry. Uh, at that time, they are engaged, and
Correct.
then oh no, the movement always happens first. Never mind. So I don't know what I'm saying. Never mind.
Well, in the next round, the cavalry would have to decide, do they want to engage the archers or do they want to engage the irregulars? And then the other one would be allowed to move at that point.
Yeah, that was the point of confusion I had. But because movement all happens at once, then
You're
my
right,
question
yeah.
doesn't matter. I understand.
I like the idea of stacking them. That's a good idea, but we're going to assume that the Goblin Riders are going to charge right in on them. And that is an assumption we can't, like Adam said, he's not going to take the same tactics he just did. So I just worry
Yeah,
that if we
but
stack them in the same spot, we're leaving a lot of battlefield open.
there's no
Yeah, but
loss condition for them getting across. Like,
yeah, I think it gives them the best chance to defend themselves and possibly destroy the unit before it can do any damage if they're both on the same
I
thing.
guess if the cavalry doesn't charge, then they can disperse and spread out if they need to. So yeah, do you guys want to put them in the middle then, or do you want to put them in the corner and have like the irregulars beside them?
I would rather. I mean, I think it would be better to put them next to the irregulars, just so that if the thing does decide to charge them instead, they get an attack on it. You know.
mhm.
I agree. I agree. So what I'm saying though is, do you want the stacked archers and scouts to be here in the middle, or do we want them to be in the corner already?
Uh,
I think if we put them in the
corners
middle, we give
fine.
them the best chance to move right away, right? Because they could retreat to the corners if they need to from here. But if they're here, then they're kind of they're like let's say he comes here and here, then on next turn, you know what I mean? They're pretty
Yeah,
locked in where they can
yeah,
go.
that seems fine to me since they have good movement. So at least the scouts do.
And just
But
in
yeah, we gotta be.
to be fully transparent here too, there's one rule, there's probably more, but there's one specific rule that didn't come up during our tutorial, what is called what if nobody fights. So for example, if you guys will call turtle, right, like all stay in the same square, and let's say they say, oh, we don't want to move into a space that's disadvantageous for us, so they're all going to wait. Then we roll a die, and depending on that die result, either the aggressor or the defender is forced to move based on the other's choice. So you can think of this as though maybe one of your units gets nervous and is like, oh, let's just take them now, and then they move forward. Or if they lose that roll, you can force one of their units to either move forward or back or whatnot. So keep in mind, I would say is, if you stack all defense and your expectation is they have to come towards us, they might not. They might choose to wait and get that random roll. Does that make sense? I know that's a little bit confusing.
Yeah. No, it does. It forces us to not just sit there and
Right,
play the
because
wait game.
otherwise everybody just sits there and nobody fights. Then what happens, right? I mean, technically these enemies
like
are
the
in
perfect
your
war.
land.
I say we stack the archers and the scouts in the middle, and then we put the irregulars in the square right beside them.
Sounds good to me. Everybody want them anywhere else?
As long as they're next to each other, I think that's best.
Yeah, and as mentioned a million times in real world, everything's fine until the first shots are fired. So
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we'll put archers and scouts here, Adam, and then do we want them on this side or this side, guys?
I don't think it matters.
Yeah,
'Cause they
either
can
way.
play wherever they want.
We'll put them on the right side then. Look good, everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, you guys are good there. So then they will place their units. Okay, that is where they are going to place them. And then we go to our phases. All right, movement phase. Attacker moves. All right, your choice to move or not.
What if we move the irregulars 2 spots over to where the skirmishers are here?
Yeah, because they're left alone for the charge that's going to
Yeah.
happen next turn.
Yeah, and that would force the goblins, the wolf riders, they would be 2 spaces away from having to attack, so that would force their attack away from this turn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's smart. Yeah.
Yeah,
Word.
that's true.
Let's do it. We can move through our own units fine, right?
You can, yep.
So we're gonna move our irregulars here, Adam.
Okay. Any other
And-
movement?
We don't get any attacks with our scouts or anything now because we can't fire diagonally. So what if we moved one of the archers up to this spot so we could get an attack over here? That
We would
open up our
we would
attack.
lose the order of operations. So if they charged them, they would charge ahead of when they would actually be able to
Yeah,
defend themselves.
if we're moving the archers, we should turtle stack all on this space, and then we have to use our moving missile, so we'd be going last, but they also moved, so it would all be simultaneous, right, Adam? Is that how it works?
Yes, if 2 move, you attack simultaneously on the moving missile attack phase.
Okay, and
Ooh,
do they
that-
only get 1 counterattack, or do they counterattack everyone who attacks them?
If you're shooting, you only shoot 1 time. If you're in melee, you only attack melee 1 time. So if you're basically, you only get 1 attack regardless per round per unit.
Hear me
Okay,
out,
so
guys.
if
What
we
if
were
we-
to use all 3 of these units to attack this guy, then he would only get to attack 1 of them back. Is that correct?
Do you mean in melee?
I mean, so
and
we
missiles, right?
moved this guy here 2 spaces, so he can have a missile attack on this guy. If we were to also move these 2 1 space to the left and then use their missile attacks as well, would the goblin skirmishers get to counterattack everybody or just the first one?
So yeah, no, they don't counterattack, period. So they attack once, and you would attack 3 times on the moving missile.
Hear me out, guys. What if we took the scouts and moved 1, 2, 3? We'd move them all the way away from the wolf riders, and then we can move our archers here with the irregulars. And then the scouts would be over here, and we could take shots, and then, we would have some space between them and the wolf riders.
But the skirmishers might, well, I guess they could do it regardless. They could target the scouts however they wanted to.
Well, they can't attack. They can't target them now, right? They would only be if we didn't move them at all. They would only be able to target the irregulars because we're diagonal. But what I'm saying is, we move the archers here so we can get an attack. We move the scouts here, and they can get an attack. Then we have the irregulars also being able to get an attack. But that means whoever they attack, let's say they get a hit, will still be more than these guys' movement speeds away from another attack.
We should definitely isolate that guy and take him down.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm fine with using the scouts movement like that.
That sounds
sure.
fine. That sounds fine to me.
So the scouts will go from 1, 2, and then 3, Adam, up into the corner here.
Okay.
And then we want to stack the archers here, guys, with the irregulars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
All right, so movement is complete. There are no magical attacks. Everybody that can shoot moves. There's no stationary. There's no charge attacks. There's no melee. So it's moving missile attack. So again, this all happens concurrently. So the skirmishers are going to shoot at the scouts. So this is a 2 missile against a 2 defense. So whoever wants to roll first, roll me a d6.
Go right
Nobody
to
wants
left.
to be the bad guy.
You want to go Blixo? We'll go right to left. Minga style.
All right, we'll take the second battle card. All right, so we got a 0 flag on flag. Okay, no effect.
Okay, now we get
Ah.
our attacks.
Now, let's do 1 unit at a time. So which unit would you like to moving missile first?
I don't think it
That's-
matters, does it?
It
The
doesn't matter
scouts, the
too much.
Doesn't really
retaliation.
matter, but the scouts I feel
Yeah,
like want
yeah.
their revenge.
All right, so we'll go
Well, that
scouts
sounds good.
first. So scouts are a 3, goblins are a defense 1, so you're attacking at +2. Whoever wants to roll next, d6. All right, second cards. We got flag on flag at +2, and that is a hit.
It's like a hit to me.
Nice.
Got to zoom in a bit here to actually move this. All right, they have suffered a hit. Next card that is shooting.
You, Dean.
Archers.
All right, archers next. I'm just going to move these guys to front for a moment. Okay, so they are missile 4 against a defense 1, so that's going to be a +3, and you rolled a 2.
Bunch of 2s here.
All right, so we got swords against flag at a +2. That's another hit. So they have no more
Alright.
hit points left. So with a rain of arrows, the goblin skirmishers are slain.
Wow. We got this
Nice.
easy, guys. Let's start celebrating now.
Good
I'm sure
start.
Tavard, search their pockets.
All right,
He's not
that was moving missile. There is no morale phase. We move back to the movement phase.
I do hope it's going well at that battle.
We'll get there. We're on our way.
All right, your choice of movement.
We dogpiled the Wolf Riders, right?
I mean, I
Uh,
guess we could do that same tactic.
Could,
don't-
but we could also go after that infantry up top.
Yeah,
really-
they
I
only have
re-
a movement of 1 though. Let's
Oh,
just
that's
keep that
true.
up. That
Yeah, because the Wolf Riders only have a movement of 2. So if we stack on this space, then they can't get to us on their turn. So we can move everybody here and dogpile this one, same as before.
And if we do that, then on the next turn, when they come in to engage us, let's assume they do instead of retreat. Well, that we do have to think about that too, because they may just run away if we all dogpile and take out one more.
I don't
So we
want
may-
them to
we
run
may-
away.
Yeah, now that I think about it, because I mean that's what we would do, right?
Yeah, but we're not filthy goblin cowards.
So a charge at them is just one movement. It's not if they move in, it's actually a charge, not a melee.
Correct. If you move at least one space into another space, you can use your charge attack.
So we should move up in order to pin them down. We just move into his space, and there's no charge attack.
We
Oh,
don't have the movement to
that
do
is-
that though. We do with the
Yeah, we
scouts,
do.
but then the
We
scouts are
could
gonna
send the
get.
scouts.
Yep.
Well, hey, look, we could do that, right? We could run the scouts in and hem them up, and then we could bring in these guys from below. Sorry, I didn't mean to move the card, but they got 2 spaces, so we can move them in from below and get missile attacks on them. And we could hope that the same thing happens, but they've got a defense of 3. So, wait,
Yeah.
We
no, they've
risk
only
the
got.
scouts by doing that. I don't know if we
yeah,
want to.
that is.
I like the
Yeah.
original plan of just ganging up on the weak one.
Yeah, we could do that. Then the Wolf Riders will escape and tell their of our glory.
We could try to.
That's not bad.
We could try to do both, right? What if we tried to move into this square with the irregulars and the archers, and we could take shots on them, and then we move the scouts up. We could probably split it, right? We could do 2 shots on the infantry, 1 shot on the wolf riders.
I don't know if I like moving in here because then they both can attack us. I think the
Yeah.
better way to do it is to try to get into a position where we're only engaging one at a time unless we think we're winning this turn. Which is going to be
Oh,
hard because they both have HP, right? They have 2 lives.
Well, if we're playing with the idea that they might run away if we kill the infantry, what if we instead draw them in, right? Like we maybe stack the archers and the scouts on one spot, and we put the irregulars in front of them, like here, right? And then as these guys approach, we could do some stationary missile attacks.
We then run into the problem where no one is fighting, right?
We're just getting ready, right? I mean, they didn't fight this round, so we're moving into position to get into a fight next round. It wouldn't be us turtling in the corner hiding from them.
But by the rules, would that trigger still?
So the way that if nobody fights triggers is if both sides do not move an entire round. Then we roll the die.
Oh, so they already moved, so we can move and not fight this turn, and then that's fine.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. If
That's
anybody
good.
moves on the turn at all, then that's not triggered.
I see. Okay, I misunderstood that.
So what if we move the irregulars up to here, right? Because these guys, the Wolf Riders still need they have to move 2 squares, so they would only be able to move to like here max. And we put the scouts and the archers here, right? And the Wolf Riders charge in. The next round, we would be able to fire off 2 stationary attacks, and then we'd have the irregulars here to deal with the infantry.
And that's a mismatch if you read the fine print of the infantry.
Yeah. I don't understand why we're not trying to take one of them out as best we can. Like, I think we're in
Yeah.
the initial conversation.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
think
just
feel
don't want
like
them to
we could-
retreat. I think the biggest thing is to kill the Wolf Riders, right? We don't want them to retreat.
I'm fine
Well,
if they retreat.
I don't think that's
I'm not going to get greedy. If we can destroy 2 of them without losing any units, that's a huge win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a less risk is the greater reward in this case.
then let's gang up on the infantry because their defense is 2.
Yeah, and if we move there, the Wolf Riders can't get to the units.
If we stack everyone here and dogpile the infantry, I think we have a good shot of taking them out.
100%. Move.
Well, what if we left just the scouts where they're at now and just moved the other 2 up and took 2 attacks, and then we would have, if the Wolf Riders move in, then the scouts would be able to take stationary attacks at them too. Or do you guys want to put all 3 in the same spot?
My goal is to do all 3 because of how fickle I've seen these cards spin.
Yeah, I'm concerned that if we hedge our bets, the Goblin Infantry is going to survive and then have a chance to do something fucking stupid.
Yeah, why
All
give
right,
it a
Adam.
chance? Why give it a chance to have it a 2-on-3 if we have a chance to do it a 3-on-1, right? You know.
No, I hear you guys. I'm just trying to clear out all the air before we
I
make a
understand.
decision.
This is complicated.
There we go.
All
That's
right,
what I was trying to
game
do.
on.
All right, so that's you guys' choice to move all there. Okay, that's your movement. They've already moved. We then, of course, move on to our attack phase. No magical attacks, no stationary, no charge, no melee, moving missile. All right, so we'll start with them. They are going to shoot at the scouts. So it is a missile 1 against a defense 2, so a -1. Whoever's up, roll me a d6.
Hey, wait, Adam, don't they have a missile 1? Can they do a stationary missile to us?
They can.
This was a
Or not stationary. They move, so they're doing
they
a
did.
moving.
Okay, sorry.
So wait,
believe
it's
it's
a -1?
Yeah, their missile is 1, your defense is 2, so they're attacking at a -1.
I got you. Okay. All right. I was thinking it was the other way. We were getting a -1. My math is messed up. All right. There's your roll.
All right, card 6. So swords versus flag -1. -1 hit. So the scouts are going to be destroyed, but the scouts do get to shoot at the same time concurrently. So let's do that. So scout is shooting at a 3. Their defense is a 2. So you're shooting at a +1. Whoever's turn it is, d6.
Like it's failing, right?
One, two, three. Okay, so we're doing flag versus swords +1. Is a hit. Okay, so they're gonna get hit, and then the scouts are destroyed.
Served us well.
Okay, next up, let's do the archers. So that's a missile attack of 4 against a defense of 2. So it's sword on sword +2. Whoever's turn, roll me a d6.
our boy Blixel.
5. Okay, so sword on sword at a +2. No effect. All right, then we move to the mercenary irregulars. That is missile 2 against defense 2. So that's going to be a straight up. So flag on sword equal. Roll me a d6, whoever's turn. Saline. All right, that's your 6. Here comes that card. Okay, so flag against sword. And it was equal, right? 0, 0.
Oh, equal?
Yeah, equal, so no
Oh.
hit. All right, so that
The
is
one we
the
couldn't roll.
right. That is the moving missile attack. There's no morale here needed based on our results on the card. So now we move up back to the movement phase, and okay, so this is where it is revealed that the Wolf Riders are led by the Goblin General, who has made his strategy check and chooses to add 1 to his movement. He is then going to go 1, 2, and charge.
He's got a silly hat, though.
He is going to charge. Let's see. Who does he want? Let's go. He's going to charge the archer. So that's that. The goblin infantry. Yeah, they don't have a missile anymore after they took that hit, so they are going to move and engage the irregulars. Okay, so that is the movement. You guys can't move because you're engaged on both units. No magical attacks. Okay, stationary missile. You haven't moved, so if you wish, you can shoot. You don't have to shoot the unit that engaged you either. So feel free to decide who you wish to shoot.
I think the archer should definitely shoot the Wolf Riders. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got a
get the
plus
bonus.
1 to it also, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you want.
I think we do melee against the infantry.
All right, so you want archers against wolf riders?
Yes.
Okay, so that is going to be, let's see, archers are shooting at 5. Defense on the wolf riders is 3, so it's going to be at a +2. Whoever's turn, roll me a d6.
Money,
right.
Brian.
Card 6. Okay, so we got cross swords on cross swords at +2.
Oh my god.
No effect.
Why is that so bad?
It's the randomness of battle. All right, so that was the archer's turn. Mercenary regulars, are you taking a stationary missile attack?
I think maybe we should try.
Yeah, now that they missed, I think we should try to take out the infantry as they're approaching, and then at least
Yeah,
be 2 against 1.
agreed.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, hearing no disagreement then, we got missile 2 against defense 2. This is going to be straight up, flag sword straight up. Whoever's turn, roll me a d6.
I'm not sure where you guys figuring out whose turn it is on these, by the way. Just let me know.
What do you
I'm
mean
going
by
right
turn?
to left on the bottom, right?
Oh, right,
So
yes.
Elaine, Dean, me, Tavard. So the our player cards at the bottom.
All right, so flag against sword straight up is a hit. So the infantry are destroyed before they make it into melee.
Yes.
Good play.
Nice.
Okay, now we resolve the charge attack. So wolf riders are charging at a 3 against the archer's defense of 2. So it's going to be sword on sword at +1. Roll me a d6. And that was Bill. Oh, yeah, sorry, Bill. You were asking how they're determined. So they're just going right to left based on the avatar pictures at the bottom of the screen. So last was Vin, so you'd be next. And then after that, it'd go back to Blixel. Okay, so we got sword on sword at +2. They're charging at a 4, and you guys have a defense of 2. So sword on sword +2
Nothing.
is nothing.
Aha!
Yeah, the
Finally, the
charge
weird
almost
gaps
actually
work.
saved us.
All right, so that was the charge attack. There is no melee attacks because everybody's acted. No morale. We go back to the movement. The wolf riders are engaged with the archers, so the archers can't move. Do the irregulars want to move?
Probably just want to engage with the wolf riders.
Are we all
guys?
stacked on the same tile right now?
I'm sorry, say again?
3 of them? All 3 of them are stacked on the same tile now? Is
They
that how it
are,
works?
yes.
Well, yeah, melee is-
But wait, they can disengage, right, Adam? I remember you said that.
Since they are cavalry, if they choose to move, yes. But remember, they go first, and they did not choose to move. So now it's your turn to decide to move.
Oh,
Yeah, we send the regulars at them. Right?
Yeah,
We
I
just-
think they just engage with them in the same square, right? With melee.
So this is a question. So when the irregulars move into melee with the Wolf Riders, are the Wolf Riders now engaged with the irregulars? Or
No.
are they engaged with both of us?
Nope. So only one unit can engage with one other unit, but multiple units can attack the same unit. So the engagement, the reason that's a term is because it locks those two units in place. So the cavalry is engaged with the archer, so those two are locked in place, except the cavalry can move because they're cavalry, so they're technically not locked. The archers are locked, irregulars are not, but both archers and irregulars can attack the Wolf Riders.
And if the archers try to attack with like missile attacks,
They cannot.
okay.
They are engaged right now in melee, which means they cannot make use of their missile weapon. They have to use their melee.
Okay. I'd say just leave them there then. Have them attack.
We
But-
can't really do anything.
Well, archers are stuck no matter what, but
Yeah.
are we going to use the irregulars to take it into? Because if we end up hitting twice, then bada bing.
No, I say we stay engaged with them.
Yeah.
I don't see a
swing
reason
melee.
Yeah, we go melee.
why we would
Yeah.
move.
Yeah, melee.
All right.
All right, so then there are no magical, no stationary missile, no charge. We resolve melee, so we'll start with the Wolf Riders. The Wolf Riders are attacking the archers. So this is we're going to see the general's going to try to boost his score. It is
That
not
was average to
boosted.
me.
Yep, it is not boosted, just a straight up roll. Okay,
Nice.
so this is a melee of 3 against a defense of 2. So whoever's turn it is, this is sword on sword plus 1. Okay, sword on sword plus 1. Okay, archers are going to suffer a hit. Okay, now the archers can counterattack if they wish. Do they wish to?
Would they get the melee too?
They only
Or-
can attack at melee 2, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then it's melee 2 against defense 3. So it's archer. So it's sword on sword minus 1. Someone throw that d6.
They may die.
Sword on sword minus 1. No effect. So the Wolf Riders are stabbing and damaging the archers, killing many of them, and the archers are not effective against the Wolf Riders. Okay. Mercenary regulars wish to melee the Wolf Riders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is melee 3 against defense 3. So this is straight up. And throw me a d6. Okay, so we got flag versus sword straight up. That is a hit on the Wolf Riders.
Excellent.
Nice.
Okay, so we'll move that down like that.
Kill him.
Okay. Then we move all the way back to the top again. Movement. The Wolf Riders are engaged with the archers. They're choosing not to move. Does the irregulars want to move?
No,
I think
we
no,
might
right?
lose the archers, but we
just
might as
keep
well keep
doing
them there because same play again, right?
The melee is
Yep.
the best.
Okay, so same play. So we move all the way to melee attacks. The general's going to make a check. He is going to add 1 to his defense score, and that's going to make his defense a 4. Okay, so it is melee. It's his melee of 2 against the archers of 2. So this is even sword on sword, d6. Sword on sword, even. He strikes, and the archers will be destroyed. Archers, now they're destroyed, so no reason not to counterattack at this point. So
Yeah.
What would be the benefit of not counterattacking?
right now, nothing. But in a normal situation, you can actually get hurt on the counterattack. So if you're like, no, I don't want to even risk these guys, you don't counterattack.
I see.
All right,
Let's
so
do it.
that's card 6. And this is going to be sword on sword minus 2.
If they wipe them out here, that would be perfect.
F
Hey,
is
there's a
attacking.
hit.
No, attacking units, that's you guys, would be falling back. So unfortunately, you're already destroyed anyway. So you're not falling back.
They start running before they're cut down.
Pretty much, yeah. All right, so that was the melee. So now it's the irregulars' turn.
Big money melee.
All right, so this is melee 3 against defense 4. So it's flag on sword -1.
That's a
Hey,
hit.
that's a hit.
Defending unit
Nice.
takes a hit. All right, and that will kill the Wolf Riders. And General Weir is slain in the battle.
We can't capture him.
If you
Yeah.
were there, you could like issue orders, but because you guys aren't there, soldiers, especially mercenary, the one unit you didn't want to survive is the
Yeah,
only one that
I was
did
about to
survive.
say, damn, we gotta pay these guys now.
All right,
Well,
so
we saved some
Well, we
money
did one.
losing the other 2 units.
all right, so now we move back to our overall map. Let's do some quick updates here. Okay, so your scouts have been slain, and your archers have been slain. All the enemies are slain. Your mercenary irregulars survived. And now I hide these units because you no longer have scouts here. You can't see into this province. All right, everybody take a deep breath. Woo!
Woo!
Any questions or comments before we get back to our regular scheduled events?
Is
Do
it
we
possible to
make-
collect the body of the
We don't want to make some money out of this deal, Adam. We need
Yeah, that's what
money,
I'm saying,
gold,
yeah.
experience points, and magic items. That's all I want.
So what I would
Yeah,
say
do
is
we
because
collect
you
anything?
guys aren't there, remember you can't issue direct orders. The mercenaries are there. If there's any loot, you're pretty sure that the mercenaries would have collected as much as they can. Now there might be like odds and ends kind of stuff, but when it comes to weapons and armor after a battle, they're generally in bad condition. So you shouldn't expect to make much in the way of money. But yes, if you wish to like send some folks, like a team into Melivienne and ask them to, essentially go through the bodies and stuff and see if they can find everything of value, you can certainly do that.
Can we try to find any goblins that were defeated but not killed, or is it like a total annihilation?
It is not a total annihilation. When the unit is considered destroyed, you can think of that as the vast majority of them are killed or injured so bad they're eventually going to die. But certainly there are some that trail off, small number. So generally speaking, these kind of fall back to where they came from, Thurizor in this case. Some of them may remain, but yeah, if you want to like try to put together like a group to track any goblins that remained in your province, that's something you could certainly do.
I feel like we need like a prisoner to interrogate to see if this is if they were being honest with us about in the note,
I feel like we need the general's body to send back as our way of saying we'll deal with you, but we'll also send you the head of the general.
And we need to bury the dead, the fallen.
Okay, many good things to think about. Is there anything else to keep us on this map, or can I put us back to the council chambers where you guys are and have probably just recently gotten this information of your survival, we'll call it, in Melivienne?
Well, I think no. Let's stay on this map. Make sure we have a scout, but we can look into Thorzor. Do we? I don't know.
Your scouts were slain.
They died. We gotta recruit more, so
Yeah,
that'll be like
okay.
the next realm action.
But there's none we can move. Those other icons look really small on my map.
They're not scouts. They're
right.
All right.
If you, and
Okay.
just as an FYI, if you zoom in, Dean, and then put your cursor over any of these, you'll get that little tooltip. I know this is brand new, so I just want to remind you guys, because this might come up multiple times. Just put your cursor on there, and it will pop up and tell you exactly what each unit is.
Oh, okay. That's easier. I can do it from sitting back in my chair. Okay.
I do agree, though. We should try to get more scouts because it gives me good peace of mind to be able to see the units on the other side.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to take us back to the council chamber unless there's any disagreement. Okay, hearing none. All right, so we zoom back over to... Oh, that's not the council chambers. We zoom
Right
back
to the
over...
bar.
we zoom back over to the council chambers where we find our player characters sitting around the table here, having been discussing and deciding how exactly, what we're going to do, yada yada, when news finally comes in from a messenger that the goblin forces of Thurzor have indeed been defeated, and that there was a goblin general whose wolf riders fought very aggressively and violently, but your proud mercenaries managed to save the day.
Well, they're getting a bonus.
I thought war was profitable.
Only if
you're
you
doing
go and
pillaging.
take over their kingdom.
Ah.
I will caution you that this report indicates that we took substantial losses ourselves. I don't believe it's a good idea to try to push any sort of advantage here.
And Vin, please roll me a d10. This is just for fun, nothing critical. Okay, and the name of this mercenary group of mercenary regulars is the Unfortunate Devils.
Oh my gosh.
You see, Blixel, this is what I was talking about. You can't be careful. You got to be careful with nominative determinism. They were very fortunate.
Now, I guess
What if
for
this was
now.
just? What if the goblin? What's his name? The big Kahuna.
Is it Weir or Mirror or something?
Do you mean the general in the fight or the king that sent you the letter?
The king that sent us the letter.
The king is Tyskar Gracier. You can find that letter. I put it under the communications folder under your handouts.
Letter from the resort.
Could have just been a way for him to test our strength. Sent in an overeager general, disguised it as not being able to control his forces, so we wouldn't retaliate. It pisses me off.
If we can recover a wounded goblin or prisoner of war, we might be able to interrogate them to see the truth of the matter.
Can we find the body of the general? I'd like to send our letter back stapled to his fucking gut.
Lord Tannen sitting around the table here will say, we would have to send that order to somebody in the area. Do you want to ask the mercenaries to take on that task or somebody else?
We probably owe them a bonus anyways, but perhaps we can let them know if they can recover any goblin soldiers and the body of the general, that will give them an even larger bonus.
You notice Lord Tannen kind of looks around and he nods and says, I will get that message out to the mercenaries, my lord. Also want to give you guys one other quick side note. You'll notice that the general is making what is known as a strategy check. This essentially is a brand new skill for the Birthright world. Obviously, none of you guys could possibly have been trained in strategy because it's not anything a villager would know, right? But you can use the downtime rules to try to gain the strategy skill if you wish. And I will also say that there is a handful of other new skills that you haven't experienced yet. So these will come up over the course of play. And you can use your downtime to try to become proficient in these if you wish.
Is there a handout for that?
No, I can make one, but right now the only additional skill you know of is strategy. Unless you were asking about the downtime.
No, I'm just asking, does it have an associated attribute with it?
Yes, you would either have to pick, I would say, intelligence or wisdom for that. I could probably see an argument for charisma as well. So any of those three, I would say, once you're trained. If you're untrained, it's just a default intelligence check. But if you're trained, I would let you choose it in int, wisdom, or charisma.
See.
All right, so this request will be sent to the mercenaries. Lord Tannen looks at you all once again and he says, well, now that the excitement of this has tamped down to some extent. We have the banker still to discuss, the petitioners. The petition session is tomorrow. Is there anything specific we should discuss?
I don't think so. You just got to meet with these people.
Okay, well, if there is nothing else, then I shall retire for the night, and I will see you all tomorrow in the throne room for the public petitioners, and then we will do the private meeting requests after that, if that is sufficient.
Sounds fine.
Then a good night to you all. And you notice Lord Tannen collects his portfolio things and puts all his papers together and makes his way out.
Night, Dannon.
It's good to hear that we defended our borders, pushed the goblin intruders out.
Yeah. We lost a lot of good people, though. Be careful.
It does give us a, I know you've only been in power now for a month, but I mean, maybe out of courtesy, it would be good to send folks to some of these other lands. Regardless of this outcome here, it's still a good idea.
If we take him at his word, he was slighted that we haven't done so already, so it may prevent other such.
Well, I just don't know what customs and courtesies are. I would think that they would come to you and, but you didn't really have a ceremony, so I guess,
Should
I
we
don't
send
find-
someone to the Gorgon?
Maybe not them.
Or maybe have a party here or something and invite, some folks from the other lands to come to us.
I would not be opposed to that. It is
They'll be drinking.
probably customary.
Well, I feel like we need to first pour through our history books of this land, since we know little of it. Who's our enemies over the last 100 years or so, and things of that nature, before we start inviting everyone into.
Oh yeah, I don't want everybody. They may drink the whole keg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be negative, but what if we don't take this goblin at his word? He sends more forces.
Beat those ones, too.
That is
Suppose
why
that's
I
the
would
zero
like
point.
I would like to find a surviving goblin to ask them if this was accurate.
Well, and let's be honest. Let's just say hypothetically, this general here wasn't acting on his own, right? The point is that you are trying to make friends and influence people, and beer does that, right? So, just saying to Dean's point of maybe find out who we are and in good relations with and who we're not, but would be a good idea to at least get some of those conversations started for those who we are.
Aye, it's a good point.
Maybe there's history. Maybe the old leaders of Cariele attacked them mercilessly, and we're stuck in a reputation that we know nothing about.
Well, also, let's take a step back and think about this Goblin King's letter. He said that he knew that we had made diplomatic relations with Moriad. I suppose, I mean, we found out information about other states as well, so it's not totally uncommon, but it's concerning that immediately people are finding out our allies. And how come they did not send soldiers after Moriad? And only us.
They don't border Moriad, and Moriad is well known for their military tradition, so it would be difficult for them to do so.
And they're testing the unknown.
It was definitely a test. He was checking our strength.
Right.
in-
We
in-
just don't. Sorry. Go ahead, Dean.
I'm just saying, in the interim, we do have troops going in to look for survivors and collect their dead, or stuff like that.
Yeah, we ordered the mercenaries to see if they could recover the general's body and any surviving goblins as well
Okay.
to bring back for interrogation.
Okay. So I must have missed that. Thank you.
Well, I
Then we
think what
should
your
talk about-
question was slightly different, though. So yes, the communication to the mercenaries to see if there's any living goblins there, kind of collect the goblin general's body. That I heard, but I think what Dean was asking about burying your own people. So if you don't specifically take that initiative, eventually maybe random folks that live there will get tired of there being a bunch of dead bodies, right?
Yes,
And then they'll start burying them. But yeah, you could certainly proactively take care of that.
We probably shouldn't have our own wounded soldiers laying in the streets until they decay.
We need to show proper respect to those who were killed, and if we can recover any survivors on our side, we have a responsibility to get
Yeah.
them to safety,
I
if not
disagree.
working.
Plus zombies. They
Yeah,
could
you never
turn
know
into
when a portal to the
zombies.
shadow world might open.
So in doing so, could we also send a scout out there at the same time? I'm not sure how this works.
You can do anything you want, right? Everything is associated with a cost, right? So if you say, hey, we want to send some people out to bury the bodies, that's fairly minor cost, right? Like even if you sent, say, 20 folks that are local to start digging graves and things in that area, if you want to say, hey, we want to recover all of those bodies and bury them closer to the capital and give them some type of military honors kind of burial, you could certainly do that. That would be a higher cost. So literally anything you can possibly think of. I would say don't only think of this from the mechanical perspective, but of course there are some mechanics that go behind this. If you treat your fallen soldiers really well, that tends to bolster the morale of your own troops, less likely to have issues of people arguing or people feeling like it's not worth it being in your soldier ranks. But if you don't do anything, then that sends a different message. So all of that is in consideration. And yeah, literally you can do anything.
Zaylene wants to show respect to the dead.
And we should throw a banquet for these mercenaries, considering they fought for our lands and held their own and took down the general. Maybe some good food and drink to celebrate them.
And
And-
bring their
Make
bodies
them
back.
feel
And bring their bodies back to the castle.
And just as an out of character or side note, remember, you're technically still actively at war, right? So there's still 4 war weeks, right? Because this happened real early on. So maybe 3.5 war weeks left of this war. If you take the Goblin King at his word and want to throw like a party for your mercenary stuff, you can do that. But technically, the Goblin King could still move troops in if he wished.
Yeah, that's a post-war thing. Because I was going to say we should probably move that Mountain's Edge unit of infantry into Melavain to bolster the irregulars again. Because if we're not taking him at his word and he does decide to attack, which we shouldn't just take this random Goblin King's word. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
So remember,
Yeah, we
moving
need
troops
help.
is a free action. So if that's what you wish to do, there is a cost, but it's fairly minor. But yeah, if you want to move that unit, we could certainly take that action now.
Well, I thought we were still in war. Does it cost money if we're in war to move troops?
It always costs money to move troops. It's just right now you're in what's known as the war moves. So it's like 1 week at a time. So if you say, hey, I want to move these guys right away, as part of war move 1, they could move over. If you get out of the war, then it's not as critical like the timing. But yeah, it always costs money to move troops.
How much money does it cost?
It's
1 gold bar. Holy shit.
no, not necessarily. So 1 gold bar buys 10 march points, and you can move a unit from one province to another with 1 march point.
So we'd have to spend a minimum of a quarter gold bar,
You got it. Yep.
which would be what's a fourth of 10?
Which, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess it probably wouldn't be too crazy to to allow you guys to do tenths of a gold bar. I will just ask you, don't make it too much. Don't make it too much paperwork on me. But I'll let you do tenths for now, because yeah, that's really designed to be done in tenths of a gold bar. Yeah, definitely not that.
I think that's the smart play, at least, because I don't believe we have a threat to our backside.
What if Markazor found the tunnel? You gotta be thinking, Ben. Never know.
If that's the case, then we're fucked anyways.
They're busy with everyone else. We're fine.
Yeah, I think it's the more cautious way to go about it because they're the ones that still are at war with us. So
I think, yeah, move the infantry over from Mountain's Edge over to Melopine and have them join in, and maybe have the infantry unit collect the dead while the irregulars try to collect as many goblin prisoners and the general's body as they can.
I do think we need to find out, and I don't think it should be hard to, if we do have an area where people are laid to rest in these situations.
I can tell you that as you guys, if you inquire about that, it won't take much time to learn that historically there's not really been like military burials. There hasn't been a ton of full-scale wars. Like this many troops haven't died in a long time.
Yeah, we should make sure we bring him back and make a ceremony, not a ceremony of it, make a statement that we do not just leave our dead in the middle of the street.
And monuments are started after a certain thing happens, so we could definitely build a monument and start that kind of military burial place, especially now that we've got places that have stumps instead of trees. We could turn them into military graveyards or something like that to give people a place to go.
Excellent thinking ahead. But do we have scouts moving into the area, my lord?
No, we would have to
more.
we'd have to buy more scouts.
Then let's buy more scouts.
We can't keep spending money.
Well, this seems rather important, though. To ensure that the goblins are not sending more forces to our borders. The only reason we had this warning in the first place is because of them.
I mean, I guess it makes sense to have the scouts. You're not wrong, but the treasury is dwindling fast.
that's what the banker's for.
Yes, but then we have to pay that money back. So the more we get from them, the more we owe. So it will never, it'll be a while before we start making money again. But look, if we move the infantry in there and just have them defending the border, perhaps we won't be able to see the troops coming in, yes. But on the same page, if they invade our borders, we'll be ready for them. We don't necessarily need to see them to defend from them. If they don't carry on their word and they send in more troops, then I could rationalize purchasing another unit of scouts so we'll have better look on our borders. But right now it's just quiet.
You never know when people are going to try to stab you in the back.
Purchasing the scouts would put us at a payroll that would empty our treasury on the next season.
Well, so question, if we're not paying for the scouts that are no longer with us, how does that affect payroll?
That has already been updated on your domain sheet. You guys used to have a 9 payroll, you're down to 7.
And the archers as well.
Well, I didn't hear that one. Sorry.
Oh, the archers as well, because they were also destroyed, right?
You
So
got
we
it.
don't pay them.
Yep, that's correct. Now remember, you're going to get more money at the beginning of the next season, but that's partially down to random rolls. You could make a decent amount, or you could make not that much. All depends on how you roll. So you're going to take whatever you make and then reduce that by your payroll, your court maintenance, and your domain maintenance costs. So right now, your whatever you make in taxes, you're going to be deducting 10 gold bars.
Well, we're supposed to have a banner tax year, right?
Your
Season.
provinces were indeed blessed, which means you should expect higher than normal taxes. Yes.
Did Dana never tell us what normal taxes were on average?
You guys
Six-
asked him
6 to
before.
8.
Right. That's what he guessed. Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. You guys.
6 to 8.
Okay.
So maybe we'll get, 7 to 10 or something like that. But we'll barely cover our costs.
Our cost is 10 right now.
Yep. So we got to start making some money.
So no scouts. We just hold the line.
I personally have a great idea on how we can make some copper. And I look at Blixel.
Oh, yeah? What are we going to do?
Shake your coin purse or whatever in the streets while you're singing, dude.
I'm not going to be able to make enough to make a gold bar.
We could at least raise tax rates from light to medium.
You can, and again, just since you're all still learning this, I'm going to throw out little reminders there. You certainly can raise your tax rates. Raising your tax rates generally lowers your loyalty. That can be offset if you have enough law holdings in your province, but I strongly recommend you review those rules, because where you're sitting right now, if you raise your tax rates, it's likely that the loyalty in the province will go down.
We defend the borders from goblins, but they still get mad at us because they got to pay us a little extra money. Jackasses.
When have you ever known people to be reasonable about how much they pay in taxes?
Can't risk Riverford dropping any loyalty, because then they'll go into fucking bandit mode. Can't have that.
All right, so as you guys are
Definitely.
discussing this
We should
among
take
council, just as a reminder, you have all your petitioners tomorrow. If you choose, you could take your domain action, the actual action, or any minor actions now before we get to petitioners. It's your choice.
Yeah, but all the actions cost money, Adam. What if we just skip it?
You are allowed to skip. Yeah, you don't have to take an action.
Is there an action that makes money?
Not really. There's one that you can do, but that's only at the very beginning of a season that can make you some extra money.
Yeah, we just don't have a lot of money, guys. We can't really do a whole lot. If we try to fortifying Riverford or Melifine would take like 20 gold bars, which we don't have.
Well, but that could be a secondary action, right? So what we could look at is since we can't really raise taxes right now to encourage people, they won't be happy with us. How can we make the people happy without using money, right?
We have to increase our law.
Well, you can use the agitate action to increase loyalty. That does require a base cost of 1 regency and 1 gold bar, and then it's based on a chance. But you could use an action to raise that loyalty from poor to average.
Uh-huh. And that would get us more taxes, or we could adjust our taxes and not suffer the penalty.
Well, no, what would happen is we would adjust our taxes, and then all of the other provinces would then drift from average to low, or average to poor. We would shift it forward just to have it shifted back after raising taxes.
Where's the handout that shows the effects of loyalty?
I could track that down for you. Oh, you're looking for the impacts of loyalty. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's specifically listed because that's intended to be like a high level summary. So you really just get the grade. So it's high, average, poor, or rebellious.
Right now, with light taxes, we get 1d4 plus 1 for Riverford and Milivane, and then we get 1d3 for Mountain's Edge. So, I mean, max for that would be, what is that? 10, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, that would be good though. But
Yeah, I mean, that would be huge, you know. But if we went to moderate, it would go from 13 to max of 2, 4, 5, so 18. So
yeah, I mean, I think increasing the loyalty is probably a good idea. Anyways, I know it does cost 1 gold, but that's not all that much. And if we're at poor loyalty, I feel like that's bad.
yeah, I mean, I agree. It's not good news. How what else can we do to increase it back to average, Adam? Does it increase, you know, because it was thunderstorms that took them down. Does like a handful of days of good sunshine take them back?
Potentially, but that's kind of out of your control, right? But yes, there are certain random effects that can raise loyalty. Also, if you declare no taxes for the season, basically saying you don't collect taxes that season, it will go up 1 level as well.
Can't afford that.
Yeah.
I mean, we could always try to use a espionage action. It's 1 gold bar, but we could use that in replacement of the scouts. Because then we could have it reveal goblin troop movements. But it's a DC 20. We wouldn't be able to spend too much money on it, so we would have to roll, I mean, high shit.
Well, at least we can defend our borders against Thorazar. That's the most important thing. And scouts was just a bonus. If we have to wait till next season, then maybe we should. And we send a
Could see
letter
us
to the King of Thorazar and say you owe us 4 gold bars for your intrusion into our land.
be a threat. It would be answered in kind, and he's probably expecting us to do something similar.
I wouldn't antagonize them too much.
We could threaten
Goblins
him
aren't
with it.
known for their temperament.
We could threaten him with that instead of saying that's what he owes us now. We could say, if you come invade our lands again, then you owe us a gold bar for every unit that you send to our lands, and we slay.
That why would he give it to us if he's sending people in here to kill us?
Well, we go and take it.
We can barely afford to maintain the government right now, and you want to start an offensive war.
Didn't say I wanted to. It's not what I'm saying. Don't misconstrue my words. He asked me a question and I answered it. All I'm saying is that if we make a threat against them, they will probably respond. So if we're going to make a threat against them, make it one that at least will make us some money. Later, not you owe us money right now. Sounds dangerous.
And you want to let them know that you don't have money by saying that you owe us money because you invaded?
I don't want to respond to him at all. I was just answering Dean's question. I think sending him the body of his fallen soldiers in general will do just that. Word will spread that we defended our borders. In one battle, we absolutely destroyed the goblin invaders. It will strengthen our position in the world without us responding. We could try diplomacy with them. Not necessarily to create an alliance, but maybe forge a truce.
Well,
We don't attack you, you don't attack us.
well, since his people came and attacked us, and he may or may not have had any knowledge of it, my recommendation would be to, instead of us going to him, send an emissary or whatever for us to go to him, but to tell him he can come to you, kind of deal. So, since they're the ones that did the war, you know.
And they do not know the state of our treasury. They do not know that we could invade their lands.
Right,
Know these things.
but if you're telling them, hi, you sent over here, so we're gonna go ahead and charge you every time you.
I wasn't saying that. That's what Dean said. That's
Yeah,
not what I said.
all I did, guys, is just say something that they owe us money. That's all. Yeah, I don't think there's like a big effort to actually do that.
Yeah.
All right, so as we're nearing the end of our session time, to try to leave us off in a good spot, is there any immediate actions you guys would like to do, like moving troops, or have you decided on your domain action, or would you like to leave that for the next session?
I think we should definitely move this guy at least to the front, like they were saying.
Yeah, I do believe we should move troops to Thorazor's border. And
It does cost a gold a piece. Just a heads up.
It
No,
technically
he
costs
said we'll do
1/10, 1/10 of a gold, so like 200 gold
Oh,
pieces.
okay.
I thought 1/23, but you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we vetoed that real quick.
I agreed to move the infantry from Mountain's Edge to Melavine. I think that's a smart thing to do. I can't trust the goblin on his word. We don't want to buy new scouts, but this way we'll at least we'll have 2 units in each side, so it should be somewhat defensible.
And if they attack again, we can like retreat and then have a 4-unit death ball. They would have to engage
And
all at once.
Dean, could you write a letter to Moriad?
I thought about that. I wondered, in regards to our recent war with Thorazor.
Yeah, I mean he mentions them by name in his letter, so
Yeah,
he might know something about them.
well, that might be the only reason. I would hate to just get in the habit of telling him that we are, disclosing everything that happens in our realm, but since his country was mentioned, that's the only thing that gives me reason to possibly write a letter to him to let him know that he's been mentioned in a correspondence from Thorazor.
Aye, and I think we should try our diplomacy against Thorazor. We should try a more civil approach. We should ask him to rescind his declaration of war.
Yeah. Who we sending in to do that, though? You gotta go into that place.
They sent one into our place and he arrived and left safely. What would be different if ours did not? Then that would be a reason for us to bring Moriad into this, show a display of strength. Aye, but I think the smart thing to do would just be ask them nicely. Hey, look, we will not retaliate for you crossing our borders and sending soldiers that killed more Carolinians than have died in 100 years. We will forgive your transgressions, but only if you drop your declaration of war. Otherwise, we will see that Moriad and ourselves will come at you with the full force of both of our nations.
I assume Moriad is still developing our alliance with them. I don't really believe that they would actually come to our defense and give up their bodies.
Well, if they called for us to help them at their borders, we would send troops, would we not?
The 4 troops we have, my lord.
If they asked.
Well, I think we should not ignore Thorazar, and definitely should respond with a letter to them to say, now would you please cease declaring war on us, or whatever we need to say, and then I will correspond with Moria just to let them know that has been mentioned in this correspondence that led to an attack on our lands, but just the only reason why we're letting you know is that your country has been mentioned by Thorazor. I will not specifically ask for help from Moria.
No, we do not need help yet.
Okay.
We'll see how they respond to our call for truce. But on the same level, we have to think about what our people would think of it. Us not directly assaulting them. Do you think it would shake their loyalty?
Well, it depends what history is written by the victors, right, my lord?
Their bodies currently are strewn across Melavine, yes?
Yes, but we recover them and we tell the wonderful story of valiance and courage of Carlinian and Cariele. The valiant fighting of the Arulian race, defending against the goblins and encouraging people's morale.
All right, and on those stirring words, I think that's a good spot to go ahead and end our session here, folks. So, hope you guys enjoyed this session. Obviously, this was your first taste of war. If you guys have any feedback, feel free to throw that in Discord for me. I will try to get more of these rules codified and put into text handouts for you. For this first, all these rules are written down, but I wanted to go over these really carefully with you guys and not expect you to read them ahead of time. But yeah, I'll make sure they're out there hopefully before next session, or if not, then the following session. Also, one really quick note from scheduling. Next week we are good to go. However, the following week I will be out on vacation. So October 6th we will have an off week. So just keep that in mind. I'll give you guys a heads up so you can make other plans as you choose. And yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Didn't you already have a vacation this year?
I did. I'm taking another one. It's only been 2 weeks too. I'm telling you, it's crazy.
Must be nice.
Next, you're gonna say you're gonna have Christmas off too. I mean,
No, he's gonna play more frisbee golf.
Yeah, that is right. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Yes, I'm heading to go play disc golf. So yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
All right.
Go have a good
Good
time.
night. Good night, guys. Good job.
All right, see you guys all next
Night.
week.
All right, folks. Enjoy. See ya.
The winners of the victory. Good job.